The 2004 season started off positively for Art Howe and the New York Mets. Strong pitching and timely hitting kept the team in contention until mid-season. But soon injuries took their toll, and it was too much for the team to overcome. In the end, they again found themselves on the outside looking in. All is not lost, however, as David has made things right again at Shea with the hopes of a brighter 2005. On a beautiful cloudless day in Flushing, New York, the Mets and Montreal Expos bring down the curtain on the 2004 campaign. The Mets will send Tom Glavine to the mound. He goes in search of his 11th victory of the season as the Mets put a camper on what has been a disappointing year all around. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Loughlin. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday afternoon, and thanks for watching us throughout the year here on the FSN New York and MSG networks for Mets baseball, and we do hope that brighter things lie ahead in 2005. Today, we will see Todd Zeile making his final Major League appearance. Perhaps it's the final go-round for John Franco. But also here in 2004, we saw the start of what the Mets hope is their rebuilding process. And Ted and Fran, it was a coming-out party for one young man down at third base.
No question about it, Matty. You know, I can't help but think that I've had it talking about 2004. I don't know about you, Fran, but I think it's a great day to just look ahead and think, okay, what might the Mets look like in 2005? And when you start and look at a pitching rotation, if the pieces fall in place, signings and health, of course, the questions, a veteran and not a bad rotation in place.
No, not a bad rotation at all. Of course, they have the same 5 guys, at least on paper, that will start off next year in that starting rotation. You see the combined record in 2004, 55 and 54. With some luck, it could have been a lot better for Tom Glavine, Al Leiter, and Steve Traxel. Of course, they picked up Victor Zambrano from Tampa Bay and Chris Benson. And the key is, you mentioned health, and you gotta be lucky.
Yeah, of course, the health for Zambrano is the most important issue the Mets face in the rotation this winter. Now, how might the Mets look in the field next year? Well, we know one thing. 3/4 of that infield is set, and that left side is about as good as you're going to get.
It really is. 21 years old. 21 years old and in the major leagues. That's the left side of the infield. David Wright and Jose Reyes. They can do it. Last night, David Wright popped the ball off the right field fence, made 2 spectacular plays. Jose Reyes, he makes spectacular plays every day, and the ball is jumping off his bat. Kaz Matsui at second base, and then Piazza. Well, you're not sure about Mike Piazza, first baser behind the plate. Floyd, Cameron, and we're not sure in right field. So that's possibly the lineup. Well, it's the lineup as of today for 2005.
And, of course, for Mike Piazza, really 2 questions. One is the position. The other is, can he regain his offensive form in 2005? We'll hear from Mike when we come back before the first pitch of the season finale at Shea.
New York Mets baseball is brought to you in part by Nissan and your local Nissan dealer, and by Hip Health Plan. Now that's hip. Terrific day for baseball here at Shea Stadium. It's the final game of a year the Mets want to quickly get out of their system as they wrap things up here against the Montreal Expos. They entered the offseason with a lot of questions to be answered. Omar Minaya is the man in charge. One of the major questions, of course, who will the manager be for 2005? But there are personnel decisions that must be addressed also. One of them involves Mike Piazza, who's under contract for next season, but at a big number. Will he move on? Will he stay? We asked him his thoughts. Here's what he had to say.
Do you think you'll be here next year? Do you want to be here next year?
Yeah, I've often said, from me personally, that it's been like a marriage. I mean, you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, and last 3 years have been frustrating. But it is a two-way street too. So you have to have that sort of synergy. And I guess because the only reason why it's been frustrating, it's just because there has been such a tough situation here, and we've had very high expectations, and it has been very tough. It's been a little draining, but and ultimately you feel, for me, I've learned a lot, and I realize that there still is, my priorities are set. I still love this job. I still, like I said, feel like I can contribute. I still love hanging out with the guys, and there's so many positives as well. So, I kind of focus on those, and let's just see where the future goes. I'm a little bit just as curious as anybody.
Now the questions will be answered in the near term. Today's quote is brought to you by Tri-State Consumer Auto Insurance. The Bat Rack is ready, the Mets are ready, so are the Expos for the finale of 2004.
Hey, MSG delivers the latest viewing innovations to watch the Knicks this fall. MSG Game Director lets you select the camera angles and replays. Virtual Sports Desk offers video on demand 24/7 and HD TV game telecast with images 5 times sharper than regular TV. All on MSG Network, enhancing the way fans get their sports. This is a copyrighted telecast presented by authority of Sterling. Mets may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mets. And one more time. Escuché a los Mets en español con Juan Aracea y Billy Berroa. The SAP function. Juan and Billy have been there day in and day out throughout this season once again. And just a few moments ago, behind home plate, a ceremony to honor Todd Zeile on his final day in the big leagues. Met teammates John Franco, Al Leiter, Mike Piazza presenting him with some mementos, and then the entire team eventually joined Todd around home plate. And some emotional words from Todd, who had one great line where he said, even I have trouble remembering all the teams I played for. And a fan up here, and there's Todd's wife, Julianne, son, Garrett. What happened is Todd said that. Fan up here in the stand shouted, Expos.
Great line.
And Todd Zeile putting the catching gear on one more time. Jason Phillips is a little banged up in the foot. And so with Tom Glavine starting, Hardhouse said he gives Zeile the start behind the plate. The Expos lineup will have Brad Wilkerson, last night's hitting hero, then Jamie Carroll, Pascucci, Sledge, and Church is the outfield. Einar Diaz does the catching, Brendan Harris at third base, Josh Labandera at shortstop, and John Patterson on the mound.
And Rico numbers for the last time here in 2004 for Tom Glavine. 10-14 on the season. It's been well documented the first half of the season. His record could be a whole lot better because he just threw a whole lot better early in the year and just didn't get support defensively or offensively. So he's 10-14 on the season. He's getting ready to take on the Expos. And there's his catcher, Todd Zeile. Todd, show me some guts. You got to get behind it with Al Leiter, guys like that, where they bounce that ball a little bit. You see Piazza, Matsui, Reyes, and right in the infield. Valent, Cameron, and Diaz left and right in the outfield. By Tom Glavine on September 18th in Pittsburgh. Todd Zeile did it. You know what? It's great. It's a great position to be in when you can pick who you want to catch. Boy, is that turning tables? It's usually, I want so-and-so to catch me. It's now, I want so-and-so to pitch when I catch.
So Brad Wilkerson will lead it off here for Montreal. And, of course, this is the final day of the season and focusing on the Mets so far. But from a baseball standpoint, this is a historic day. It is the final game in the history of the Montreal Expos franchise. 36 years.
Yeah, the gentleman that helped bring baseball back to Washington was in the booth just a few moments ago.
And Bobby Goldwater,
MSG employee,
Madison Square Garden employee.
We worked diligently to get a baseball team into Washington, and finally the hunt is over. Unfortunately for Las Vegas, other cities, they fell short. I'm sure baseball was very impressed with them. But the Expos will no longer be in Montreal.
Of course, one city's celebration is another city's mourning, and in Montreal today there certainly will be mourning, and it's an emotional day. And on the right there is Jacques Doucet, who has been a part of the Montreal Expos organization since day one. For the first 4 years of the Expos franchise, Jacques covered them for the French language newspaper La Presse. Since 1972, he has been the French language radio play-by-play voice of the Expos. And I went over to see him before the first pitch, and he had tears in his eyes. It was an emotional day for Jacques because obviously there will be no move to Washington.
As you look at that last pitch, and it's now 3-2 on Wilkinson. By the way, they had in Montreal,
as Wilkerson goes down swinging,
they had a Hall of Famer who was extremely popular in New York as a broadcaster. Duke Snider was a broadcaster up there for years. There's that last pitch. Glavine gets Wilkerson, that 3-2 strike. But Duke Snider was a big part of that organization for a number of years. You know, that's a forgotten man in Montreal.
Yep. Worked many years there on the English language broadcast of the Expos. Jamie Carroll at the plate. But you can understand for those for whom French is their primary language in Montreal that there was no place else, obviously, for them to go with baseball. And this day is such an emotional one. Of course, as was pointed out last week, had the separatist movement not been so strong in Quebec the last couple of decades, and so much business leaving the province of Quebec and heading to Toronto, friendlier to English language businesses, perhaps the fortunes that befell Montreal might not have had.
Well, they say the reason the Blue Jays have been successful is because of that. So many corporations have moved and made their headquarters in Toronto, pulled out of Montreal.
3-1 now to Carroll. And there's ball 4. So the Expos get a base runner here against Glavin. That'll bring up Pascucci, who had a home run last night. Not a bad turnout here today on this final day of the season. There is an original Expos. That's the hat, the blue, blanc, and rouge that was worn when the Expos first started in 1969. And that's the thing as a kid, Fran, that I remember about their franchise. It was the first, to me, it was like the old phrase Technicolor. It was the first baseball team in Technicolor. Everybody was gray and white before that. And here he came with these bright red, white, and blue.
I think you set a record today. We're in the first inning and you have spoken 3 different languages. I like it.
I'm waiting. Here's our Aflac question. Did any of them well?
Well, fall is upon us. 31st of October, everybody will be celebrating Halloween. That's the Mets bullpen.
Yes, it is.
Ooh, those tomatoes are getting big, aren't they?
The garden out in right center field. Scoochie with a foul.
Hey, there's the big, well, it wasn't a big foul then. Legrand Orange, Rusty Staub, and he couldn't fit in that uniform right now.
The first great Montrealer.
Well, he was a very popular player.
Yeah, the first great first guy that was became the signature player of their franchise.
And when Rusty went up there, he learned how to speak some French. I mean, he tried to,
Victory. It's a victory. Seriously.
It is.
I mean, that's all you have to do. Make an effort.
There's Pascucci chasing that pitch right there. It's 1-2 on the big fella who hit a long home run in last night's game. But Montreal had a lot of great talent go through that city. Wow.
There's a ball 2-2.
Think of Andre Dawson. I think a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame. He's a Dave Winfield with injuries. Gary Carter was up there. He is a Hall of Famer. We've had some great players.
One of the, I think, more unheralded pitchers of his era, Steve Rogers.
Good pitcher.
The Richmond Players Association. It's a ball, so it's 3-2 to Pascucci. And the strength of the Expos franchise, and I'll have to look up the exact number of years for the first half of the franchise, was the ownership of the Bronfman family.
In fact, Charles Bronfman said that his favorite player was Legrand Orange.
Runner goes, and Pascucci pulls that to left for a hit. Jimmy Carroll will head to third. Valette fires to second, holds Pascucci to a single. And the Expos have runners at the corners with 1 out.
Here it is again. Pascucci not driving the ball, but hitting the ball well enough to pick up a base hit in left field. You see Todd Zeal ready to throw. Look at Todd. Like riding a bicycle, he said. I'm ready at all times. There's that ball going into left field, base hit. Eric Valente gets over there. Now the Expos have runners on the corners with 1 man down here in the top of the first inning. Terminal Sledge will be the batter. So it's all about nostalgia, I guess, today, Ted. When you look at the Expos, they will no longer just. It is depressing when something like this happens to a franchise. You think of the people in Brooklyn, the way they felt
Well,
that
that's exactly the point. That's, you know, baseball's been blessed. Baseball hasn't had franchises pull up moving vans at 2 in the morning and bolt.
Yeah.
You know, people wake up one morning and decide, you know, I think I'm just going to go today. I'm just going to take my team and leave.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened in over 3 decades.
And Bud Selig is certainly trying to keep it under control. It took them a while to move this franchise.
And it's a mixed bag. As you see the crowd today, and I can't help but imagine there are some folks who came today for the historic significance. Final game ever. Take some souvenirs home. Sledge, boy, he's had a nice weekend. Base hit to drive in a run. I mentioned this story last night. And this kid in April, when the Expos were here, Termel Sledge was 1 for 34. That's how he started the season.
Right here, he takes that pitch and goes the other way. It's our Panasonic digital replay. One thing Sledge had in his favor with the 1 for 34, he was playing in Montreal. They felt he had talent, and they could be patient with him. Whereas if you're with another organization, you're in trouble 1 for 34 unless you have a very confident manager.
That's Sledge's 5th hit and 4th RBI of this weekend. Now Church takes a strike.
Frank Robinson, the manager of the Montreal Expos, keen eye for talent, stayed with Sledge.
There's a ball to Church, 1-1. Well, the Expos' dilemma that we talked about was the fact that over the last decade it's been a slow deterioration of the support for the franchise there. Part of it was due to the ownership period of Jeffrey Loria, where every remaining bridge to the community was burned. And that's still the subject of legal action, which is a whole different matter. But over that course of time, the other issue is that nobody stepped forward. Nobody liked the Bronfman family, which was the original owner, and we regarded it around the game as great owners.
Yeah.
Nobody stepped forward with Montreal roots and connections and said, let me try to buy this team and see if I can save it.
Well, a lot of people were offended up there that follow sports because the word was it's not a good sports city. They said, well, check out the football up here. Check out the tennis. And they draw very well. Check out the hockey.
2 now to Church.
So you wonder if a new stadium up there in a beautiful area would have helped out. I think the Big O hurt. At first they applauded the Big O as you look at that last pitch, but then the Big O seemed to hurt the franchise.
Well, the Expos 4 times in a 5-year span grew over $2 million. And we were their best years, 79, 80, 82, 83. There's a swinging strike, and Church is gone 2 away.
Well, a lot of things will happen with that Expo ball club. A lot of people will move to Washington as you see that last pitch. Church swinging through it. From up top. Church, good swing. Just swung and missed. Speaking of moving on, this is our last day. My applaud Charlie Samuel for moving the Mets all over the country and working in the clubhouse. Does a magnificent job.
The best, Charlie Samuels.
I've had people from other ball clubs tell me he's the best. Guys that have those jobs.
Equipment manager and traveling secretary for the Mets. And as valuable as they come.
And he's a throwback because, you know, the old equipment managers, those are the ones that would get on the players. I remember an equipment manager telling a player in Kansas City, he said, how can we win with you? He said, you're a AA player. He was on our team.
A strike now to Diaz, 2 outs here in the inning, and the Expos with a run. Brendan Harris on deck. I'm just watching today. I'm wondering how many of these uniforms that the Expos are wearing that are going to be on eBay tonight. What do you think?
Oh, I believe a lot. I believe a lot of things will be on eBay before the day's over concerning these Montreal Expos. Tony Carrillo, who works in the visiting clubhouse, has to make sure everything is protected at the Expos zone.
Reyes has to go to first base and does, but Diaz got down that line well. Made that a close play. Expos get a run on Termel Sledge's hit. John Patterson on the mound for Montreal, but let's take a quick look at the Coca-Cola schedule, which are the matchups, the only games that have any relevance, and of course the first one is for the Marbles. If Roger Clemens wins his 19th today for Houston, they are the wild card team. Jamie Wright pitching for Colorado, and that if the Houstons win, the San Francisco-Los Angeles game means nothing, and Dodgers still undecided. Who knows who they'll pitch in a game that no longer has any significance for them. Lineup for the Mets today: Reyes, Matsui, and Wright. Piazza continues in the cleanup spot. Mike Cameron's 30th home run last night. Then Valent, Diaz, and Seal in front of Tom Glavine.
John Patterson on the mound, and those are his Rico numbers. He'll be the last starting pitcher in the history of the Montreal Expos.
I almost feel like Patterson's part of the family. He's only made 19 starts this year. This is his 6th start against the Mets. I don't feel like I've seen him pitch every game this year. That's going to just tail out of play on the ball hit by Reyes.
Well, we were talking in the opening about the possibility of next year's lineup, and I mentioned yesterday, you see Matsui on deck. Mike Piazza told me in an interview that Jose Reyes and David Wright, that's going to be the guys that are now going to be responsible for lifting the organization. He just hopes that not too much pressure is put on them, but he said they got a world of talent. And coming from Mike Piazza.
Reyes for the leadoff hit.
But this ball, we're talking about Jose Reyes' bat. When he's healthy, that ball jumps off his bat. Look at Kaz Matsui making his way to the plate.
One thing about Reyes, and it's a point that we haven't spoken as much about this year with the health being more of a concern. That was a 217th at bat for Jose Reyes this year, and he's drawn 5 walks. And so for someone to be in the leadoff spot, at some point that will have to be an issue again for Jose, is just to have some selectivity. If you're only going to walk 5 times, you better hit .330.
Well, you know, I know what you mean, but I'd be reluctant to take away his aggressiveness.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, to be in the leadoff spot, and Reyes has every other thing you want in the leadoff spot. Bat's got a little pop, he's got speed, but obviously he has to be on base. And his on base percentage this year, 271, is just not going to cut it.
It's a good point. The one thing I wouldn't take is his stats too seriously this year, because when you start having injuries, you come back, it takes you a while to get going again.
No question. That's why I said it hasn't been talked about, but it is something that heading into next year, assuming health, assuming that the new manager says, okay, Reyes is my leadoff hitter, that will be something that's going to be conscious of.
If he's healthy, he will get nothing but better offensively. He will end up hitting higher. He'll steal more bases. He'll probably hit more home runs because he's stronger. He's got a very high ceiling, and he's an exciting player. The whole thing is for him to stay healthy. If you had an organization, you could put him at shortstop. How would you feel about that?
Matsui fouls it away. Well, Reyes, today's only the 53rd game that he's played this year, and he's second on the team in steals. He got 16 steals.
Well, defensively for the Expos, Wilkerson, Carroll, Bandria, and Harris in the infield. Sledge, Church, Pascucci left and right in the outfield. Diaz behind the plate. Bandera.
Oh, this is
Banderia.
That's a kid you know today that he's thinking about one thing. He wants to get a hit. He's been up for 2 weeks now, and he's got the last day of the year, and Frank Robinson's giving him a start to get that first big league hit.
Believe me, it's all about offense. I mean, the defense is important. You can't win without decent defense. But individually, if everybody was honest, it's all about the bat. Where do guys work the most? You've been around this game a long time. With the bat. Anybody win the MVP award in baseball because of their glove? Ever?
That's a good question. Ozzie Smith didn't win one, did he?
I don't know, but if he
There goes Reyes. And he is going to be in there. Boy, good throw by Diaz. And Reyes beat it to steal his 17th base.
oh, Jose Reyes can just outrun the baseball. Diaz with quick feet got the ball to second base in a hurry. And Jose Reyes got that hand in there. Ball beat him. You know what you need? The slap tag. And you see Jose Reyes just outrun the baseball.
At 2-2 to Matsui. He fouls it back. I'm looking here. No, Ozzie never won the MVP. So
Nobody ever
I'd
won
have to say you're right about that. Keith won it.
But he hit
The year,
340
yeah,
something.
hit 344 the year that Keith shared it with Stargell.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, the defense is important. But if you're going to get a standing ovation, it's usually because of what you've done with the bat. Now, if you get the standing ovations, it's important. Go ahead. Nice play by Diaz. I thought that ball was going to hit Matsui.
3-2.
By the way, as you look at that last pitch, Ted, we talked about Charlie Samuel and his crew downstairs. We don't want to forget Jay Horowitz and the outstanding job Jay and Public Relations Department does here at Shea Stadium.
Shannon Dalton, Ethan Wilson, and the inimitable, incomparable, irreplaceable Stella Fiore.
Absolutely. I take the words out of my mouth. There's Shannon telling Jay exactly what to do. This is how we do it, Jay. 25 years, Jay Horowitz.
That's pull. Oh, nice stab by Wilkerson. Wow.
That was an outstanding play by Wilkerson.
You know what? You watch Wilkerson this weekend, you almost think this is an audition.
Oh, you mean for another team?
I mean, you know, obviously he's a big part of what the Expos hope to keep going in Washington.
Great play. Outstanding play by Wilkerson. He could play the outfield. He was a good pitcher in college, and he can hammer the baseball. That's a terrific play by Brad Wilkerson, the shortstop for the Expos. Will he be in Washington? I gotta believe he will.
So Reyes to third, David Wright the batter. David Wright today was packing up before the game, like most players do, getting boxes packed up. Some of the veterans were giving him some good-natured ribbing. David was emptying his locker, taking everything with him. Until it's rookie, first year in the bigs.
His parents are in town. They're all going to drive back to Norfolk, Virginia. And last night, he got his first hit in front of his parents in the big leagues. They have been to Shea Stadium. And every time they've been here, David has come up empty. But last night, he hit the ball off the right field fence.
Now, the last time the Expos were here, David got his first big league hit. This was July 22nd against Zach Day.
Right down the left field line. So the Expos saw David Wright get his first hit. And Art House said, get him the ball.
His sixth at bat when he got that hit. Fouls this one away, and a souvenir 2-2.
Mentioned last night, we have next week Mets Inside Pitch, all about David Wright.
And that's honoring John Franco in the bullpen today.
Ricky Vitalico putting up the tape.
Now 3-2.
By the way, Ted, that show on David Wright will be here next week. It's a day off in New York with David Wright. There's a look at Mike Piazza on deck.
Pitching there, fouls that pitch away. John Patterson from Texas used to be a highly regarded prospect in the Arizona farm system. One hit to right field, unplayable. Pascucci, well, Pascucci made it a little more difficult than it looked, and in to score is Reyes.
Jose Reyes sliding behind the plate, tagging it as he passes. So David Wright with an RBI. And here it is again. Nice pitch. He goes out, gets it, pops it in the right field, picks up his 38th RBI of the season. Pretty good arm right here from Pascucci.
Remember, Pascucci used to be a pitcher. The problem was he really, I don't know if the wind fooled him or.
And the wind for the ball
See,
died.
that's not good. There's some momentum going, but he caught that ball down low. You know, Fran, the point about that at bat, though, there's exactly the kind of at bat that the Mets need to see more of next year to improve. Because that's the situation that has crushed them offensively this year.
Well, I will tell you this. The other day, Ted, we were taping David Wright before he went into the clubhouse. Somebody asked him because they wanted to have that camera on him for the show, and he was hitting. They said, "Are you hitting third tonight?" He said, "I hope so." But you could tell how this is a big thing to him, and he's adjusted well to that third hole.
But a productive out. Third sacrifice fly, getting that man in. Third base even with an out. 1-2 now to Piazza. And Mike into left center field for a base hit. You see some of the highlights of Piazza last night. If you watched any of the highlight shows, they were flashing back. You see Mike swing here.
It's a good swing right there. He got his hands back, looking back, and then through the hitting zone. Mets are hoping that Mike Piazza comes back and he's healthy next year. He can generate some offense.
11 years ago, on this day, the final day of the season, Mike Piazza hit 2 home runs at Dodger Stadium at the end of his rookie year. Knocked San Francisco out of the playoffs. They were showing that on a lot of the highlight shows last night. Of course, tagging it with Steve Finley's home run yesterday. Won the division for the Dodgers.
Mike Piazza certainly likes last day of the season. In fact, his first year in the minor leagues, he was going to be released. And the last day of the season, with 2 home runs. Dodgers decided it'd be a bad idea to tell Tommy Lasorda we're going to release this kid. And of course, the rest is history.
And he looked young. I got to tell you, watching these highlights 11 years ago, he really looked young. And one of the home runs off Dave Riggett. Strike 3. So Cameron is rung up, out on 3 pitches. But Reyes in that leadoff spot helps generate a run that ties the game after 1. Second inning here in the season finale at Shea. Glad to have you with us on FSN New York. The games this year have been in the extraordinarily capable hands of Mike Santini, Joe Whalen, as producers, Bill Webb, and John Gallagher as directors. I just wanted to see if Webby was over. Brendan Harris of the foul, the award-winning Bill Webb. Of course, will be off on Fox coverage of Major League Baseball playoffs and World Series. Jim Gallagher, Bob Lawani, Charlie Cucchiara, and Fran O'Connor. Our entire Shea Stadium crew, great men and women, day in and day out.
Terrific job. Everybody does a terrific
El
job.
Jefe, Leon Schweier, is here today. Executive producer, Mike McCarthy, SG Networks.
Downstairs watching the game.
Behind third, David Wright. Throw Blanchard on to get Harris, one away. Another highlight of the year here at Shea on a Sunday afternoon in May. Tom Glavine finishing with this pop-up from Royce Clayton, a one-hitter against the Colorado Rockies. Kit Pello, another name that will join Jimmy Qualls, Joe Wallace, Leron Lee. A few others will come to my mind here. Matt Lord, late inning hits to break up potential no-hitters for the franchise that still has never had one, despite a legacy of great pitching. And that day, Kit Pello with a 2-out double in the 8th, the only hit off Glavine. Now Labandera, Fresno State product, looking for that first big league hit. Takes it, it's 1-1. .7" Josh Labandera.
Fresno State.
Good baseball program. Bobby Jones.
High school. The high school had some pretty good pitchers. Tom Seaver.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. You think it's the last day of the year? There's a French-speaking fan. That's a reference to the French language broadcasters in Montreal. 3-2 now to Labandera. Looks like that outside corner is there in the strike zone.
If it's there, Tom Glavine's going to extend it.
And Labandera is robbed of the hit by Matsui.
Yeah, he hammered that baseball.
That's almost where you're rooting for the ball to somehow miss the fielder. You just like to see the kid get his hit.
That's our Panasonic digital replay.
What a terrific play by Matsui.
Well, I'm sure he'd like to get a hit as a Montreal Expo. Nice play by Kaz Matsui, getting way off the ground to grab that ball.
John Patterson bounces a foul. Well, obviously, for a young man who gets his chance to wear a big league uniform in September, you want to get in, you want to get that hit. And everybody in the game understands that.
First major league hits, the one hit you'll never forget.
And yours was off?
Mine was off a guy who the year before won 30 games. How about that?
Is that right?
Eddie McClain. He went, I believe he won about 25 that year, or 26.
So you owned Palmer and McClain.
I owned them. Just kidding. I didn't own anybody.
Third strikeout for Glavine. 1, 2, 3 go the Expos. Our Dreyfus look at the numbers takes a look at the all-time series between the Expos and the Mets. Amazingly, almost 600 games dead even on this final day that the teams will ever play. Of course, the first Montreal game was here.
Right there. That number is very surprising.
It's one of those oddities that it just catches your eye. When you look at the Expos and the Mets' history of 36 years, you obviously realize it was a best of 597 series.
We talked about some of the talent the Expos have had over the years, and they put some fertilizer in their minor league system, didn't they? And they groomed a lot of kids to come out of the minor leagues.
Valent fouls it back. Well, let's take a look at another Met highlight of this year. This was in Montreal. Eric Valent on July 29th completes a cycle as he homers off a speaker.
That was unbelievable because at that time there was a rumor going around he was going to be traded to the Red Sox. In fact, the other day he told me he was surprised because he hadn't played a whole lot as he strikes out there. And then he hit for the cycle. It was off.
So one down on the strikeout of Valent.
Good pitch right there. Valent swinging right over it.
I'll bring up Victor Diaz. Any hockey players here today, Fran?
Clark Gillies was here the other day. I think Matty was looking all over the stadium for him. Did a little interview. I guess Clark intimidated Matty.
I don't blame that. He intimidate me.
Oh yeah, they said, and you know what, nicest guy in the world, but a legend in New York.
Maybe the best left wing I ever saw. That's just foul up Diaz's bat.
And they said he loved to throw some punches. And you see this fall, well, guess what's
coming? Think orange, man.
That's LeGrand Orange. Mixed basketball will return this fall on MSG. Catch over 70 live games, starting with preseason matchups later in October and the season opener November 3rd. The Knicks on MSG this year, it's all ball.
Nicely done by Jamie Carroll. It's Diaz for out number 2. And a nice hand for Todd Zeal.
Nice ceremony before the ball game honoring Todd Zeal. This is his last game. He played with the Expos. He's playing his last game against his former franchise. By tomorrow, they don't exist.
How about this? Today, it's the 137th game that Todd Zeal has played. He's played in all but 25 games for the Mets this year in some way, shape, or form. Come on, Julianne, turn around. Webby put you on camera, and she turned on us. Julianne Zeal, of course, was a gold medalist in gymnastics in the 1984 games. Now, this is Todd Zeal's first Major League home run 15 years ago. Wow. That frame, huh?
Came up as a catcher.
Hit that at the old Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati.
Said he and Joe Torre locked horns over that switch to third base. And then he saw the light. He said, I'll last about 10 more years playing another position.
And it's done now. The tribute to John Franco, who's going to pitch today. Nice sliding stop by Harris. Well, that's going to get the Harris fan club from upstate on their feet. Good play by Harris playing third base. Question for John Franco I was asking before the game, is he going to pitch 2 or 3 innings today? Still to be determined. As we go to the 3rd inning, Tom Glavine on the mound in a 1-1 game, and we're joined now by, I think Omar has been the most frequent guest of Matty Loughlin. I think if we had a frequent guest program, Omar would have a lot of points. But it's nice to welcome you back on the Mets side, Omar, and congratulations.
Well, thank you, Ted. It is a pleasure for me to be here. You know, it's just great to be back on this beautiful day here in New York in Shea Stadium, and the last game of the season. There's always something special about that last game of the season.
There's been a lot of talk, Omar, about you growing up in this area. I mean, it's got to be just unbelievable to come back as the man in charge of baseball operations.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to come back as the man in charge of baseball operation. I mean, I was here as Steve's, as an assistant for Steve Phillips. And I think what's great is to do it here, the challenge that's in front of us, and for me, it's just I think it's just looking at what could be and what the future will be. I know what this stadium will feel when we are playing pennant race baseball, and really the focus is going to be on that. So the exciting thing for me is, yes, I'm excited today. But I'm more excited about when hopefully we get back to winning, to the winning ways that I expect us to be doing.
And that's a great lead-in, Omar. You point. What would you like the Mets to be? What would your vision of the New York Mets winning baseball team be? What kind of a club?
Well, I mean, the kind of a club is going to be, first of all, I can be, if you want to say this style of club, I think this is a ballpark where pitching. Look, at the end of the day, for me, no matter what ballpark you play in, for one, you have to pitch. To me, you have to be strong in pitching, starting pitching, bullpen. I also believe that you have to play defense. So, I mean, I think that's, if you look historically at the good teams, that's what they have to do. But it's not about winning the World Series once. It's about being consistent, being competitive year in, year out, and really almost having a feeling when spring training starts that you're going to be there. And I don't see no reason why we can't have that feeling. We have the revenues to do it. Now we just have to put the right pieces in place and find a system or a philosophy. And my job is going to be this winter to evaluate the past winters, how we really just to evaluate the past season and past years, what has transpired here.
Well, we talked in our open about the potential starting 5 next year. What do you think?
Well, that's when you look at those 5 guys that are there, and we're negotiating with Chris Benson, and we're going to be talking with I know I'm going to be talking with Al Leiter, but those 5 guys, when you look at Victor Zambrano, he's going to be healthy. We don't know, at least we have good reports on Victor Zambrano, but I think
that's good news. You do have good.
Well, and I say good reports, I mean reports. I say our scouts have good reports on Victor Zambrano. That's why we traded. The medical, we're still, I'm been here 2 days,
right?
And I'm kind of evaluating. I'm getting up to date on those things. But yes, you look at those 5 guys, and I think it's fair to say that those 5 guys are double-figure win guys. If we end up starting the season with those 5 guys,
just between the 3 of us, who's going to be the next manager?
My wife asked me who's going to be the next manager, and I says I'm keeping it close to the vest.
How long, Omar, do you think it will take you to be up to speed where you want to be on knowing the current state of the organization?
Well, I am guessing that at least it's going to be a process that's going to take a couple of weeks. How many weeks that is, I don't know, but it's interesting because when I started with Montreal, that one was
you had a couple of weeks.
Well, I had a couple of weeks just to we had a couple of weeks to put it all together. This one, it's already it's pretty much built, and now we're going to have to find a way how we're going to make adjustments along the way to get it back up and put it on the right track, and the right track is winning. To me, it has to be about winning.
Now, as far as we mentioned Montreal, up there's a little tiny microscope. In New York, it's a big spot.
Oh yeah, the Big Apple,
Let me ask you, does it help to have grown up and be well versed in that big spotlight?
I think so. I think that, being a New Yorker, we know that I like to think we're a little bit aggressive in our ways. And I have been here before as an assistant. So one thing I feel that I have an advantage is that I know the system. I know the people that are here. I have an idea of how the operations have, the history of the operation. And I think Fred and Jeff realized that when they made the decision, and I have to thank them. And it's really a courageous decision to say, hey, listen, we are going to turn over baseball operation decisions to you. And I think it's a bold move by them, and I am grateful to them. But then again, they know me. They've seen me operate here, and they saw me operating when we had those winning years. And hopefully, what I want to do is be able to bring back those winning years to the ownership group, but to the fans. And because I know the fans are starved, and I say this. And one thing about Mets fans, and knowing that I'm a New Yorker, they're passionate. And they're going to let me know, too, when I screw up. And that's okay. Because New Yorkers will let you know. We'll praise you when it's good. Yeah. But get ready when you don't do it. And that's okay.
Omar, you said you will be talking with Al Leiter. Is that scheduled? Do you have the...
No, I talked to Al today before the game. I just told Al, it's the last day of the season. And I just say, hey, Al, let's plan on getting together, me and you. I just kind of want to get a feel for what he's thinking. I want him to kind of get a feel for what I'm thinking. What my plan is going to be. I think we owe it to Al Leiter to do that. He's been a veteran that I've seen win us many wars. I will not forget that game when we beat the Cincinnati Reds in Cincinnati. And being in that trainer's room, watching him get ready for that game. And when I saw that he was throwing that all-speed stuff for strike, and if I'm not mistaken, who was the umpire that night? God, I remember the umpire. But anyway, when he started calling that soft stuff away, I says, we got this game. Because you're not going to hit that cutter. And if you give him the stuff away, I said, oh, we got this game, you know, and we won it. And that's really turned it around for this organization those years.
Will the activity be at a rapid pace quickly after the postseason?
Well,
Your activity.
my guess is probably not, because, you know, I have a lot of things going on right now. I am educating myself, and my staff is educating me on the organization. So I am one of those who believes, yes, I believe in being aggressive, but I believe in also thinking things through, being cautious, and listening to your people. And I just don't think I'm that smart to start making quick decisions without really evaluating.
Wilkerson running again, and let's see if the Mets can turn this. Reyes, and still does.
What do you think, Omar?
Look at the smile on his face. What do you think?
That's the future right there. We're going to see, hopefully, a lot of that stuff in his future and our future.
That's a gun.
Wow. Okay, Omar's going to hang with us here. We come back for the bottom of the third. It's Shea. As we go to the bottom of the third, it's Shea in the season finale. Omar Minaya joining us, watching the team that you just spent 3 years living with on a daily basis. And I want to get back to the Mets in a second, but let me, as we see Glavine lead off here, Omar, your emotions watching and knowing what this game means to the diehards supporting the Expos.
Well, I think my emotions were left behind, I think, Wednesday in Montreal. That really was emotional. That last game in Montreal with the fan base. Today's less. I mean, it's a fact. It's been announced, and it's over. You know, and it's kind of ironic that, if I'm not mistaken, it started here in '69.
Yes, it did. First game.
And if I'm not mistaken, I might have been here at that game when I was a kid.
Yeah, but you said you were sneaking in at the time.
Well, that day, opening day, I was not sneaking in. I'm not sure, but I believe that I was here that year of '69 when they had that opening day, and here I am today, the last game of the Expos, and the Expos for me will always be in my heart. It was the first team that I was a general manager. It was a wonderful city that embraced me, embraced our club, embraced everything we did. So yes, but it's also it's over, move on. And I think what I'm excited about is these guys that I was with for the past 3 years are going to be in Washington, and I think they're going to be contenders pretty soon.
Is Frank Robinson in the running?
For
managerial? We don't want to put you on the spot.
I'll tell you, my wife doesn't know.
Frank must be an interesting character to deal with.
Frank was outstanding. You're talking about a young GM working every day, talking baseball with a Hall of Famer like Frank Robinson. I will never forget that. You're talking about one of the greatest players that ever played the game.
I agree.
And not only was he a great player to play the game, he is still out here working and wanting to give his knowledge to those young players and give it back to the game. We had a great relationship. It was really a we. Yes, we played 500 those 2 years, and it was a tough year, but it was great working with him. And I do believe the general manager relationship, in order for the organization to work, to win, to be consistent, that relationship has to work. And I think it worked well with me and Frank.
At one time, as you know, Omar, and Ted knows, that manager ran everything on the field, and he pretty much picked a team. Seems to have changed over the years. Will it be that way with you and the new manager?
No. I could tell you that my belief is that the manager and the general manager work together. Sometimes you have to make decisions in the best interest of the organization, not in the best interest of that particular day or that particular year. So I do believe that the general manager, to say I'll give you the team and you manage it, no, that's not fair to the manager. And vice versa. I don't think it's fair for the manager to say these are the guys I want, because sometimes he may want a guy that may not be ready and may hurt this kid's development long term. So it's like anything else. It's about it's a relationship that needs to be, and that's needs to be talked about, needs to be worked about, because at the end of the day, the number one thing really is the best interest of the organization.
If a player was having a problem with the manager and the player was of value, an asset to the organization, would you as the general manager step in and negotiate that dilemma?
I think that's where you hire a manager. The manager really, the players report to the manager. They don't report to the general manager. And I say this, that's the manager's job. That's, the manager's job is to manage that team, to manage that clubhouse. That's his clubhouse. Now, at the end of the day, we have to agree on how that clubhouse should be managed, and that's your player. I don't believe in meddling in manager-player relationship. Now, don't get me wrong. I think if a manager asks me, hey, can you help me out? Then I think that's something that I may consider, depending on the situation.
Omar, before we let loose here, I want to ask you, you mentioned you're going to have a conversation with Al Leiter. Mike Piazza's situation also. Will you talk to Mike? And
I talked to Mike today, and I told Mike that we were going to get together after the season. I think Mike's situation is a little different. Al, and I say different, more so because Al has an option.
Right, there's a contract difference.
See what I'm saying? And
I asked the question because obviously Mike has asked. He has said publicly, I want there to be more communication. He wants to know his role, the clearly defined role.
I met with Mike today before the game. I kind of went and we pretty much talked about getting together sometime in the future. And I think Mike deserves to hear from me what my thinking is. He's been a great player. He's really. I remember when I was here, you're talking about the one move that turned this organization around. It was the Mike Piazza trade, and he's done a great job for this team. And we don't get to the World Series without Mike Piazza.
How do you see his role?
I don't know that. Before I decide that, I want to hear what he thinks, how he sees his role, because it's not. To me, it's always about what the player sees himself being. A lot of times we see the guy, but the guy don't see himself doing that. And, he's the one playing. We're the one watching.
3-0 now to David Wright. Power to right field. David Wright on a 3-0 pitch. It's his 14th of the year.
I like it. 3-0. That'll get the apple up. So David Wright, in front of his parents and friends, hits a ball the other way. Omar, what about that type of power?
Well, he showed it yesterday, that ball he hit off the wall. And if I'm a Met fan, what I'm excited about is not only that home run, I'm excited about that double play the inning before. And when I see that, I'm seeing the future of the Mets. And I am confident that, with this future, I like to think it's a bright future because of these kids.
I like the idea. It's 3-0.
Yeah, I know you were going to love that.
See that?
Healy's a 3-0 guy, Omar.
Omar, it's the best pitch a hitter's going to see if thrown the way the catcher and the pitcher want to do it.
Hey, I kind of like that too myself. I believe the guy can hit the ball out of the park. You turn him loose. You let him go for it.
I like his.
And I'm going to tell you what else. I'm going to throw my Will Ferrell moment in here. David Wright hit that home run and ran around the bases. Old school. Did you see that? He ran.
You know what?
Style.
I'll tell you what. If there's a young Barry Bonds that don't run around the bases, I'll take him too.
Understood.
Okay. I'll take the Barry Bonds that when he hits it, he looks at it.
If he hits 700, yeah, you let him walk.
If he hits it, he doesn't run around the bases. I'm not going to pass up on it.
And David Wright, of course, he just hammered that ball 3-0, and he's brought a lot of energy to this organization, like Jose Reyes has.
Well, young players do that. They do that, and I think it's important, especially when you're building a winning tradition, a winning team. I think you need to have a mixture of both. You need to have the young player, and I do believe that, young players, and for me, they listen a lot to the older players. To me, a lot of times I've always say, and being there, that sometimes the best coaches in the world are the players. Not sometimes. There's a lot of people that say all the time. I won't go that far, but I will tell you, young players bring energy, And what you need to have is a little mixture of veteran players that fit the mold, that accept their roles, but take the responsibility of helping the young players. And then you really start building a winning tradition.
You know, Omar, I should also ask you this while we have a moment here with Cameron batting. You mentioned how you're getting up to speed here these first few days on what's going on here and all the ins and outs. And talk about how it's going with Jim Duquette, how you perceive that your and Jim's relationship will be.
Yeah, it's going very well. I say this. That's a ball hit, hard hit ball.
Whoa. And a nice catch, boy, sinking line drive. It's picked up nicely by Sledge in left field. All right, well, that answer I'm afraid we're going to have to hold for the next time. Omar, thank you as we see David Wright's home run, and we'll look forward to seeing you this winter.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, we go to the fourth inning here in our Aflac trivia question. Who are the 4 men born in the city who played 14 or more seasons for one of New York's major league teams? That's a good one. Charlie Cucciara doing some outstanding last day of the season research. You know what they say about Charlie? Never mails it in.
No, he's a gamer ever since he left Fordham.
All right, here's Sledge.
They got rid of him.
And I do want, I want to make sure, because we didn't want to leave Omar hanging there. He stayed longer than he was going to stay with us anyway, but Omar just telling us during the break there that Jim Duquette is continuing to do many of the same functions Jim was working on for the Mets, and that Omar really is in a review process right now, which you can understand. That he's got, and it is going to take him some time to get up to speed with all the intricacies of the Mets organization, and that Jim's going to be the guy he leans on tremendously to help in that regard.
He said he's always had a great relationship. We've seen it over the years, Jim and Omar, for a number of years. They've always had a great relationship. Both very nice guys.
All right, there's the, look at the Piazza. Tell you what, Yoga Piazza did this past offseason head to help. That's some stretch.
Ooh, that hurts. Jeez. Look at this. Reyes across to Mike Piazza. Oh, I bet you can't do that.
Oh, now that's not. You still want that dinner at Parkside? You better take that bet back.
I've seen you after the game. I take it back.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want any more detail on that one.
It's how you stretch. Ralph will verify it.
Here's Ryan Church, who struck out his first time. They're underway in Houston today with no score in the first inning. I'm going to have to check here on the little handy-dandy computer. They don't have Roger Clemens' number up on the scoreboard here at Shea. How about that? Wouldn't that be something?
Roger was supposed to pitch that ball game.
Church with a ground ball. Piazza with a backhand stab, and Glavine covers for round number 2. All right, now look at the men and women who've brought you Mets baseball in our production facilities all year long on both FSN New York and MSG.
All very valuable. They make our job easy. Quiet applause for everybody who makes it easy for us here at Shea Stadium. And a lot of them have been doing it for many, many years.
You always say that about Webby. Now the pitch in for a strike to Diaz.
You know, it's very important as you look at those names again, the production people who have been invaluable.
Inside again, 1 and 2.
And they are out here very early on game day, sometimes the day before game day, working to get the facilities in tip-top shape. So congratulations to those folks who did a great job once again this year.
And just the sheer volume gives you an idea of how many people it takes.
Oh, yeah, it takes an awful lot of people to put this together.
Ooh, Diaz out on strikes. Bat lands safely beyond third base. And Glavine, a good inning after getting the lead, puts the Expos away quietly. Bottom of the fourth at Shea on this final day of the 2004 season. Eric Valent, Victor Diaz, Todd Zeile will bat. Valent with a strikeout his first time. Just to confirm that, in Houston they're underway and Roger Clemens is not pitching. And don't know why, as you see more of the names again of the men and women responsible for our Met telecast this year. Clemens not starting. Brandon Backey was the starter for Houston this afternoon.
Have to find out what happened in Houston, because Roger Clemens was scheduled to start that big game.
Well, whatever the reason, it's got to give some hope in that San Francisco clubhouse as they try to recover from it's just a stunning loss yesterday.
Yeah.
They need Colorado to win to keep their season, their Giants season, alive. And Valent goes down. A little hard. It's like a slider on the inside that Patterson has used a couple times to strike out Valent. So with one down, it'll bring in Victor Diaz. Diaz with the ground out to second his first time. Home game in Cincinnati today, Pittsburgh and the Reds. And that's got some significance. It may very well be the last time. That's a fair ball. Diaz throws out Diaz. Well done by the Montreal catcher.
Victor Diaz will be playing some winter ball in the Dominican, along with Jose Reyes. Here you try on top of that ball. This is our Panasonic digital replay as Diaz, no relation, throws out Diaz.
Now Todd Zeile to the plate. So his last major league game today for Todd. In Cincinnati today, Barry Larkin started at shortstop for the Reds and was taken out after one at bat in what is expected to be his final game with the Reds, but Larkin has said he'd like to keep playing.
Yeah, Larkin wants to play, and the Reds have been saluting him all year.
They're not as interested as he is. Flag trivia question for the season finale. Who are the 4 New York City natives to play 14 or more seasons for one of New York's major league teams?
Lou Gehrig.
That's right.
Whitey
How
Ford,
about that?
John Franco and Eddie Kranepool.
So John Franco finishing his 14th year with the Mets today. Wouldn't that be, am I missing one? Wouldn't that be 15?
There's John.
He's going to get on the mound sometime today.
Lou Gehrig, Whitey Ford, Eddie Kranepool. How about 2 of them with the Mets? Eddie Kranepool had a 18+ years in the big leagues. Good major league player. A legend in high school. Broke the great Hank Greenberg's home run record at his high school.
This is Franco's 15th season as a Met. It's a ground ball hit to David Wright. And the throw on the first gets Harris, one away. So that'll bring up Josh Labandera, who got robbed of his first big league hit, a leaping catch of a line drive by Matsui in the second inning.
List goes on. That's how many people it takes to bring the telecast. send it out of Shea Stadium all over really all over the country today. Rec TV, cable TV, baseball package.
There's a strike. We understand now the word from Houston is that Clemens was scratched today with stomach flu. And that's a Paul Harvey moment to me.
The rest of the story right now.
Houston would have to go to San Francisco tomorrow. If the two teams end up tied after today, they play in San Francisco tomorrow.
Well, I'll guarantee you there'll be a lot of baseball people watching that, and like you said, looking for the rest of the story.
Two strikes now. Change up missing, 1 and 2.
It's got to be tough in the ball club when you go into a ball game like that. You get to the ballpark and your money man can't take the hill. That's got to be a downer for the ball club.
Left field, Valente. Boy, Lavandera has nailed the ball twice, and both times outs.
Some more of the names of the folks that are so important to us, to everybody here at Shea, putting the broadcast together from MSG, FS in New York.
So with 2 down, John Patterson at the plate.
And it's funny looking at a lot of the names there, Ted, not only well qualified to work in the television field, but big sports fans. They talk a lot about the baseball game before the game and after the game. You notice how everybody has an answer
Yes.
about baseball? You gotta love it. They have a passion for it.
And Patterson sharply to the middle. Reyes with time and the gun. So Reyes just kept that ball near, and the arm to get the out. So 8 straight Expos have gone down.
By the way, we've been showing you the names of the production people that helped put the broadcast together, and a lot of Expo fans here for the last game. The most important part of the day for the production people involves these names here: John Esposito, George Waters, Charlie Davis, Raymond Jean, Sean Kendall, Maria Moretti, Margaret O'Neill, Bill DeBaker Simmons, and guess where they are all located?
Where?
In the press room, where the food is handed out. They are very important. Folks in the press room do a
You're
terrific
insinuating
job.
that our production team enjoys their food?
Well, the 4 guys that come to mind is our producer Mike Santini, director Bill Webb, you got Charlie Cucchiera, and you got Jim Gallagher. You know they're up there all the time. As the names continue to be exposed, the day where the Expos are in town.
Glavine fouls it away. Glavine walked and scored on David Wright's home run in the 3rd inning. That's the difference in the game right now.
Let's not forget our guy, Vito Vitiello, and the production crew here at Shea Stadium. They do a terrific job. Vito looks good on camera, doesn't he? Works hard.
Vito's multitasking.
They do a terrific job at the scoreboard here and a lot of the production here at Shea Stadium. hot stove report during the offseason. You got some great talent in the bullpen. John Franco waiting. After all these years, he's getting nervous, isn't he?
Kind of like the last day of school, isn't it? It has that feel.
It does.
It's like the last day of school.
One of our favorite days. The last day of school, that is.
You know, exactly. Glavine walks for the second time. Speaking of which.
Yeah, and let's not forget, kids, be a part of the team by joining the Mets Fan Club for Kids, presented by the Sports Authority Newsday and Fleer. For more information, call 201-784-9600 or log on to Mets.com/kidsclub. We're talking about the end of the season. It's tough when a team doesn't advance to postseason play. So come to think of it, it's not like the last day of school. Last day of school, you knew next day you'd be in a ball field.
Well, the feeling here, you know, when you got a situation like this, both teams are out of contention that last day. It's obviously not a lot of stress or tension, and everyone says goodbyes, but a lot of people know you'll see them again in February or March. It's sort of like getting, you know, telling at the end of 4th grade, telling your friends goodbye. You'll see them in September.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because season ends and the players are taking maybe a couple of weeks to relax and then bang, they're at it again. Some guys in winter ball, other guys just preparing for next season as Reyes fouls that ball off. You know, they have a big crowd here today for the final game of the season that doesn't mean anything except for the Expos. Here's that foul tip of Diaz's mask. Einar Diaz now reconsidering his position behind the plate after that foul ball. Well, if you missed it, David Wright in his ball game has a home run. As Ted Robinson mentioned at the time, 3-0 home run.
I love it when guys swing a 3-0.
I think he'd be brainwashed.
David Wright did that to right field. David Wright's driven in all 3 runs for the Mets.
Put a whole lot of pressure on the pitcher when he knows you can jerk that ball over the wall 3-0.
And Reyes takes that curveball, so the count full. Boy, Reyes quick on the inside there, pulls that foul.
He's a whole lot quicker than he was when he first came to the big leagues, but that'll come with getting a little older and a little stronger. You see a kid come up at this age, he's only going to get stronger and better. Look at this. He gets ahead of the bat out there in a hurry.
Bounce to the middle, and Reyes will not let that be a double play, and the throw just airmailing Wilkerson at first and slammed off the padding of the box seats. No advance for Jose.
Jose Reyes getting down that baseline in a hurry. Now that is a tailor-made routine double play ball.
Those photographers scattering.
Watch this. You know, when this ball's hit like this, the opposing team says we get a double play. It wasn't even close at first base.
Well, that's, I'm sure, the reason the throw went as awry as it did. La Bandera knew he had to hurry it if he had any hope of doubling up Reyes. Now Matsui, the batter. Kaz with a play Wilkerson made against him in the first inning on a hard hit ball down the line, robbed him of a hit. Then he had a soft liner to third in the 3rd inning. Here goes Reyes. One quick throw, but Reyes beat it again. He has stolen twice today. 18 now for the season.
So Jose Reyes, that's a good pitch to throw. You're running against a good throwing catcher. Jose Reyes beating the throw again. Perfect ball to throw to second base. Diaz got it down there through a strike. Reyes outran the baseball.
Yep. So it's 1 strike to Matsui. Foul back.
Kaz Matsui, big home run. First at bat against Randy Johnson.
This is leading off a game May the 12th in Phoenix. Kaz takes Randy Johnson deep. Meant something because it was the only run that night. Tom Glavine outdueled Randy Johnson 1-0. And now Reyes with Patterson not looking steals third.
Not even close. I'm telling you, Harris, the third baseman, couldn't beat Reyes to the bag. How about that for a stolen base? Look at this. Patterson looking at the plate, which he should be. Nobody else on. Look at Harris can't beat Reyes to third.
I mean, this is a last day of the season moment right there because nobody, you could tell Reyes was going and no one even shouted. None of the Expos moved. It wasn't just Patterson. Now they have to bring the infield in. And Matsui drills the hit. Well,
that's stealing the run.
Well, I was just going to say, obviously it's not based on or not relevant to 2004.
What do you think about the house thing?
But well, that's the problem, is it doesn't help him at all. But again, for the Mets, all you can take out of this day right now is to say, gosh, what could this be like next year to have Reyes do what he's done so far and David Wright do what he's done.
Well,
and Kaz to deliver the RBI hit.
Sure, Met fans who are aware of this ball game will certainly be optimistic about that left side of the infield. Kaz Matsui on the right side. We showed the potential defensive alignment next year in our open. We had Reyes at short, Matsui at second, right at third. We had Mike Piazza in 2 positions. Omar Minaya will meet with Mike Piazza shortly, but here's David Wright again. David Wright has been, he got to the big leagues, batted down in the order. Look at Matsui. Then they moved him up to third, and he loves batting third.
Claudio Vargas in the Expos pen. That's trying to avoid a season-ending sweep at the hands of the Expos. There goes Matsui with a huge jump. Diaz, didn't matter. Diaz had no chance. Shouldn't even have come up out of the crouch.
Ted, I agree with you. You know, you think about what could possibly happen next year if they stay healthy. Here's another good pitch to throw, and the ball bounces out of Diaz's glove. And a big jump for Kaz Matsui. I'll tell you, they stay healthy. They can bring some pressure on the defense, especially the pitcher and the catcher. And then you have David Wright now batting with the runner in scoring position, and Mike Piazza to follow. Interesting. Wow. Last day of the season. I'll tell you another thing. You know what's going to happen is you got to protect your players. Patterson going inside. The Mets have been running wild.
That's the immediate. Glavine looking up. I think that's the immediate thought is.
Well, he also has the home run 3-0.
Well, you know, yeah. But I wonder if this pitch is more an inside target, gets away.
Yeah,
but you wonder if it's caused more by the running than by the hitting of David Wright.
Yeah, the other thing is, you know, Ted, I know what you mean about the inside target. Sometimes you say we're trying to pitch inside.
Well, I know. I understand that. I'm just saying, I wonder if that pitch, though, the whole thing there was created more by the running. That got to Patterson.
It's a 4-1 ball game.
Yeah. New York Mets baseball brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work.
And folks, don't miss out on seeing your New York Knicks in action. Knicks full season in partial places. are on sale. Partial plans, I should say, are on sale now. Call 877-NYK-DUNK or visit NewYorkKnicks.com. 2004-05 New York Knicks. It's all ball. John Patterson said, yeah. The last ball I threw hit David Wright.
So Claudio Vargas on to replace Patterson, and he'll face Mike Piazza. Piazza with a single and a walk. 2 on, 1 out for the Mets. There's Vargas's numbers. He has been used as a starter and a reliever, and his biggest problem has been the home run ball. He has given up 25 home runs in only 116 innings. Left-hander Joe Horgan now getting ready. Two strikes to Piazza.
By the way, if you missed it, David Wright hit his 14th home run in the major leagues since being called up from AAA. As you look at that last pitch to Mike Piazza.
Piazza pops this one up shallow left. Sledge fighting the sun, but puts it away. So Piazza pops up 2 down. That'll be up to Mike Cameron.
And our Panasonic digital replay shows the Sun was tough to beat, but the Expos did.
How about, as Cameron stands in, how about the story in Houston? You mentioned Roger Clemens was scratched from today's start for the Astros with a stomach flu. We understand Mike Santini, our producer, learning that he's actually on IV right now.
Wow.
In the Astros clubhouse. Brandon Backey given the last-minute start. There's a ball to Cameron, and in the bottom of the second inning, Brandon Backey has singled in 2 runs.
He said, you know what, not only will I lead us to the promised land with my arm, I'll do it with my bat.
So the pitcher has given Houston a 2-0 lead. They're now in the 3rd inning. Houston trying to win its 18th straight home game, and that would give them the wild card. The thing about Houston, so 10 days ago they were playing in San Francisco as Cameron swings through this. They lost the first 2 games of a series, and they were trailing in the 9th inning of the 3rd game, which would have been really a knockout game for them. And Lance Berkman hit a home run off Dustin Hermanson at the top of the 9th. Astros won. And since then, they've completely taken charge. And in the category of too little too late, at Wrigley Field this afternoon, the Cubs scored 5 runs in the 1st inning. They went a week. They couldn't score 5 runs against Cincinnati in the whole series, it felt like.
No,
and after being shockingly eliminated yesterday, today they get 5 in the 1st.
A lot of disappointed people in Chicago, and Victor Diaz was the culprit.
2-2 now to Cameron.
Between innings up here, when Omar Minaya joined us in the booth, he was talking about how he's impressed with the way the ball jumps off Victor Diaz's bat. He's impressed a lot of people this year. I had a conversation with David Wright about it. He said he could crush the ball. John Patterson's not impressed. Sitting in the dugout, and he's not a happy camper.
Well, we'll see if the Mets are unhappy about that pitch that hit David Wright.
Yes, I know it.
Ball to Cameron. So the count is full. This is the home run that referenced. Boy, Jim Gallagher's on top of his game too. This is to get the exact date, but this was the shocking. I mean, if Houston had lost, they look at the reaction in their dugout. They knew how big that was. Their season would have been over basically. That would have been a 3-game sweep. They'd have been knocked out. They came back to win that game in the 9th inning. Dave Iori down in the truck actually got that tape for us. Great job, Dave.
Well, he did a great job coming up with that.
Runners will be moving here. And Cameron hits a high fly ball to left center. Ryan Church parks under this one, so the Mets settle for one in the 5th. And now up to 6th we go. The Mets have a 4-1 lead. Here's the Pepsi Party Patrol coming back into the Met bullpen. Met bullpen's got a little bit of a festive air to it today, doesn't it? So as we go to the 6th inning.
Yeah, you see that what happened down there at
They just took Mike Piazza off the field.
Yeah, they left Mike. Mike went out, and then Craig Brazell went out to take his place. Mike came out of the ball game.
A nice gesture by Art Howe on his final day. And Craig Brazell takes over at first base. Glavine continues to pitch. Wilkerson will start it. Wilkerson with a strikeout and a walk. For Mike Piazza, the end comes officially now to a season. And there's a nice gesture, especially for Don Baylor. But for Mike, it's the end to a season that he's never experienced before. And Wilkerson out on strikes, so Glavine has found a way to slow down Wilkerson. Struck him out twice.
So Tom Glavine gets Wilkerson. We'll take a look now at our Jeep game summary. Sledge, once again, RBI single in the first inning. David Wright, sac fly, home run, 3 RBIs, a home run on a 3-0 pitch. As Reyes, 3 stolen bases, 2 runs scored. And a nice crowd out here for the final game of this campaign.
So here's Jamie Carroll. That shot we saw also is something today that's significant, as you saw Don Baylor get a hug from Mike Piazza. And of course, the reality is that for Art Howe knows that this is his final game for the coaches. The reality is that they look at it that way.
Yeah.
With the probable exception of pitching coach Rick Peterson. And for the Met coaches today, Rick Peterson, that is expected, will be continuing on, but for the rest of the coaches, very uncertain, and most likely with the new manager coming in, we all know the score in that regard, looking for work. And a bunch of, and as we all say, Fran, coaches work their tails off.
They do, and these guys did.
Get very little reward for that. Gary Pettis has been the Mets first base coach the last 2 years. Another New York native, Matt Galani, who's been here 3 years, is the third base coach. Heath Bell getting called out of the bullpen.
Like Peterson was telling me the other day, he likes what he has seen from Heath Bell. Good velocity, good breaking ball, aggressively jumping off that rubber at the hitters.
One ball, one strike to Pascucci. Singled and hit into a double play. Now 1-2 as Feliciano joins Bell down in the bullpen. Great field today. This has a fall feel, doesn't it?
It really
the
does.
First day we've had really great weather throughout this last month of the season.
Playoffs kick off this weekend.
To the right field corner. That's going to be some trouble here. And it drops fair. Hops out of play. So Carroll will have to stop at third, and Pascucci in at second with a double.
So Valentino Pascucci hitting the ball hard down the right field line. And the big boy gets his weight behind it. And he picks himself up a double.
So 2 on for Montreal with 1 out. Sledge, the batter, he singled in the Expos run in the first inning, grounded out in the 4th. 5 hits for Sledge in this series, 4 runs batted in. He's had 3 of the hits off left-handers. So the Expos go to Washington, and they've had a couple of things happen this year they can count on. One is the Sledges and Rivera. Juan Rivera not playing today, but Sledge and Rivera have both taken big strides toward proving they can play in the big leagues.
Yeah, this organization once again has some fine young players that when they do go to Washington,
There's Juan Rivera not playing today.
They're just going to develop into better players. And they'll have Vidro next year.
The interesting thing, of course, none of the players are going back. They're all on flights tonight, heading to their homes. But what is left of the Montreal front office is going back to Montreal. That's the question that I've been asking today, and it's just confounding, is that they're going back to Montreal. And Tony Siegel, who's now running the baseball department with Omar having come to the Mets. Tony, great baseball man.
Yeah.
4 decades. Thinks it could be as much as 6 weeks that they'll be in Montreal before anything opens up in Washington, and that's wow. That's a head shaker to me as far as getting the business office intact to start selling tickets.
Well, Frank Robinson will be a very important part of the organization. He hangs on as the manager. He was a very popular player in the Baltimore, Washington area.
Two now, and Glavine going to step back. Glavine's thrown 101 pitches here. .33rd start of the year. 212th inning. Tried to get the fastball outside. 87. Pretty good life for Glavine, but doesn't get the call.
Pretty good pitch.
Remember what I said earlier about it being a last day of the season? No, that's
pretty good pitch. It's off the plate.
Yeah, off the plate.
102 for Tom Glavine.
So not yet. It's not that kind of strike zone yet. And ball 4.
103 pitches for Tom Glavine, and we are 5 1/3 innings into the game. That's unusual for Tom Glavine.
He's walked 2 here in the inning, 4 total. Bullpen ready. Ryan Church, a left-hand batter due in. Church has struck out and grounded to first. Well, Houston acting like they want to finish it. They've added a run now in the 3rd inning, and they lead 3-0 over Colorado. There's the Houston score, if you can make it out against that afternoon sun. And did you see what happened to Jeff Kent last night? 2 more home runs.
Yeah.
Jeff Kent passed Ryan Sandberg last night. Most home runs ever hit by a second baseman.
Hall of Famer?
He's making a case.
Yes,
I got to be honest.
is.
106 RBIs again this year for Kent.
His numbers are better than Robbie Alomar's offensively.
Well, power numbers, not overall.
Check it out.
Hits and batting average. No, hits and batting average. No, Alomar by a mile.
Go
power
ahead.
numbers, Kent.
He's going to the book.
I just want to see how many years in a row it is. Did Kent have 100? No, Kent did not have 100 RBIs last year.
Ryan Sandberg belongs in that Hall of Fame if you compare him to other members who are second basemen.
Kent just drove in a run, in fact, to make it 4-0 now for Houston. So Kent has driven in 100 runs 7 of the last 8 years. He has over 300 career home runs, and those are numbers that second basemen have never had.
Right. Well, I mean, they have surpassed Robbie Alamar's numbers.
No. Yes, in power numbers, and not hits or batting average. Alamar's hits and batting average career much higher than
Overrated.
Kent.
Batting average, come on.
Okay.
Ted, you know we've discussed this many times before, after games.
Yeah, I know. That's a. I mean, Alomar has over 2,700 hits, and he has a lifetime batting average of 300. Kent does not have either of those. Popped up here by Church. Tagging up Carroll. Cameron coming into shallow center and makes the catch, and all Jamie Carroll can do is bluff. So Glavine gets big out there, gets Church on a pop to shallow center.
Well, Mike Cameron said this is one of the tougher Sun fields he has played on, and he has to charge in and make this catch, and then, of course, he's so shallow, nobody's going to challenge him. Throw up the line. And Art Howe is going out to get Tom Glavine, I guess.
Well, I think this is
about Diaz?
This is not a pitching change meeting. Art came out and he waved Todd Zeal up as if to say, yeah, I want to talk to you guys. I'm not going to make a move here. So the bullpen ready, but will not be used as it's October now, so that sun, even though it's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in New York, becomes more of a factor.
Yeah, Mike Cameron said this is one of the toughest Sun fields he's ever dealt with. Remember, he was scored an error on a ball that was hit by a Cincinnati Red. I believe it was Ken Griffey Jr. hit it, and it was dropped by Cameron. I've never seen anybody get an error when the ball's lost in the sun.
With Tom Glavine on the mound that day, cost Glavine a victory.
I asked Mike Cameron about it. He said it's the only time he's ever been charged with an error when he lost a ball in the sun. Sometimes you got to give credit to the sun.
Yep, it was June 24th here. 2-1, Mets had the lead, and you continue to see judgments made about Glavine that say that this has been a disappointing year, bad year, subpar year, whatever, and it's just I continue to maintain that's just not paying attention.
First half.
But Tom Glavine, the first half of the year was pitched as well as anybody in the National League. That's Suey, good range there to his left.
Yeah, he looked good going to his left there.
Well, the range didn't appear to be enough for a shortstop. Maybe it'll be enough for a second baseman. And Glavine gets through the inning. Well, Vargas back out to pitch for the Expos as we go to the last of the 6th inning. Just keeping you updated on the postseason scenario in baseball. They finished the game that was suspended yesterday in Minnesota. And in that finish, Minnesota beat Cleveland in the 12th inning, 6-5. They've just started game 2 there early on with no score. And if Minnesota wins both games, but they've won the first game, if they win their second game, then Anaheim would have to win today in Oakland in their hangover game, or else they'll play the Yankees. Basically, that's what it would come down to. Indians, now we understand, have taken a 1-0 lead. If the Indians win that second game, it will be assured that Minnesota will play the Yankees here starting Tuesday night in the Bronx. And Anaheim would play Boston. If Houston holds on, they up 4-0 at home against Colorado in the 3rd inning. If they win, they'll be in Atlanta Wednesday. And the Dodgers would play at St. Louis in the National League playoffs. Wonder if that calls for John.
Next they'll connect.
John Franco's going to pitch today, and Rick Peterson talking to him. Maybe they're going to get John going here. Valent takes a ball. 2-2. That ball lifted to the left side, and that's going to get out of play. Well, Eric Valent is one of the players that will leave here today and go home and feel real good about 2004. It's the first full season for Eric in the big leagues in his third organization. He's going to end up at about 270 at-bats. And Eric Valent goes home, I'm sure, feeling that he's proven he can play now.
Very important year for Eric Valent, feeling that he can play and a lot more confident when he comes back next year.
And I think this is the point, is that teams constantly look for, and the Mets, after letting Tony Clark go this past winter, needed a left-hand bat off the bench. Valent is that. Could Victor Diaz be a right-hand bat that factors in?
He certainly could. The Cubs will vote for him. Diaz with the big blow against the Cubs. He'll go home for a little while, probably drive by Wrigley Field and tell them, you know what, you could have drafted me if you wanted me.
That will be the swing that will haunt the Cubs all winter.
Yes.
Victor Diaz's swing. There were others that hurt, but Victor Diaz was, I mean, that's a 3-0 game. 2 outs, bottom of the ninth, 2 walks. And then this young man hits a home run, and the Cubs in a week went from being really masters of their own destiny to being out, completely out.
Of course, Sammy Sosa really struggled when Chicago was in town. In fact, one day, 4 strikeouts and hit into a double play.
The Cubs all struggled with the bats.
Well,
The
your
Cubs-
big guy, you're expecting to step up and
Yeah, no,
carry
absolutely.
you when you're in a stretch run.
Well, and several of them. I mean, Moises Alou, Nomar Garcia-Parra had basically very little impact down the stretch with the Cubs. Diaz taps a foul, and the Cubs season has ended in a state of being that you would almost think they're in New York. In Chicago, which is generally a very supportive area, and it doesn't really thrive on a lot of negativity, and the Cubs are mired right now in a huge cloud of negativity over this last week collapse.
Ooh.
Buzz to Diaz in tight, 2-2.
Well, last day of the season, you don't want to end it by getting drilled with a fastball. Let's Diaz get out of the way of this pitch in a hurry. It's going to be interesting to see his development over the winter when he plays winter ball in the Dominican.
Well, you referenced it earlier. It's all about the bat. If it is all about the bat, Victor Diaz is going to get a look.
Absolutely.
He's going to get a look in the spring because he's shown one thing: when the ball comes off his bat, something happens.
He's a kid.
It's a live bat,
And he's also very young.
and he's a litmus test, really. Victor Diaz is of baseball today, where the bat can take you far enough that even if you don't have a glove, and Victor really doesn't have a position right now, the bat will get you a look.
In my opinion, it's easier to work on your defense and get better defensively than it is offensively. And, you know, go to the Dominican Republic and take 100 fly balls a day. Look at this.
Well, look at that ball spinning. You couldn't hit that again if you tried for 20 years. You couldn't hit a ball like that.
I agree.
The spin on that ball, and I hope that our replays will pick that up and do it justice. It was amazing how that ball was
It
spinning.
didn't hit the rubber, did it? Let's take a look at it again. Diaz putting the ball in play, hit it off the end of the bat, throwing the bat at the ball, and it's a spin off the dirt.
That's just all spin. Look at this ball keeps spinning away from Labandera.
You know, another thing, this guy can fly down that baseline. And he's got that stocky build, but look at, I mean, he can really motor. They're not going to get him. Watch him get out of the box. Turns it on.
That's a good call, Fran. He does get down the line better than you would think looking at it.
You look for certain things from the player, and offensively, he's got it. And, you know, right there, he picks up a base hit. It was a ball that he hit off the end of the bat, picks up an infield hit because he can run so well.
So Todd Zeile rounded to third, fly to center. Randy St. Clair, the Expos pitching coach, is going to make a trip to the mound. Let's go back now to Pittsburgh 2 Sundays ago, and Todd Zeile's 2000th hit.
In Pittsburgh, and he picks up his 2000th hit. Jose Mesa is the pitcher, and Todd Zeile says, give me the ball.
Does it feel like that was only 2 Sundays ago? Julianne McNamara Zeile. Julianne McNamara, as we mentioned earlier, was a gold medalist in the Los Angeles Olympics. Gold medal gymnast. Met Todd. They met together. They went to at UCLA. Julianne was from Northern California. Todd from the Los Angeles area. Garrett Zeile, their oldest son, has been a pretty constant presence this summer with Todd.
He has a good swing. See him take batting practice. Nice ceremony before the game honoring Todd Zeile. This is it. Playing his last major league game. We think.
Otherwise, he's got to give all those gifts back.
Not necessarily.
It's true. I don't think Keith Jackson did he? I was impressed by that. That shows you something. You can retire and go around and get gifts everywhere, and then at the end of the whole process say, you know what? Change my mind.
But I like the gifts.
Oh, Zeile hits that to deep left, and what a way to go. And an emotional pump of the right fist for Zeile. On his day with his family here, relatives from all over the Midwest, and Todd Zeile hits a 3-run homer. And the Met bullpen coming out onto the warning track.
How about the Mets bullpen? And Todd's wife. It's quite a scene. It's like Ted Williams did it. Hit a home run and go right into the clubhouse. Emotional day for the Zeile family. And listen to this crowd. There's got to be a curtain call.
Jeff Keppinger's pinch hitting, and Zeile stands up there on the top step.
Remember Ted Williams, what he did, a home run, ran right into the dugout, into the clubhouse, and that was it. But it wasn't the last game of the season. It was the last home game of the season for Williams. But Todd,
I didn't know Ted Williams did that. I thought John Goodman was the only player that did that.
John Goodman, well, Todd Zeile might do it now. Look at this, watch him Tommy Hawkin. That ball was up high, and Todd Zeile got on top of it. A home run for Zeile. An emotional day for the Zeile family. How about the guys in the bullpen coming out? Standing O from his teammates in the bullpen. The dugout went wild, and so did his family.
Keppinger pinch hitting now for Glavine. And that home run by Zeile extending this lead and giving Glavine a great chance to end this season with a win, something that should have happened for Glavine more in the first half of the year. Keppinger out swinging here, and there's one down. Now Reyes on twice today. Has stolen 3 bases and scored 2 runs. And it's just it's an interesting collision of emotions here watching this, Fran. You see this kind of a weekend, and you recognize for a guy like Zeal, a veteran that might have thought he was going to have a role on a winning team this year. It didn't happen. But if you're the Mets, you look at this weekend and you see Reyes and Matsui and Wright, you see the way they've contributed today, and you think, man, this be pretty good next year. But it doesn't salve the wound of this year.
That's right. How'd you like the Art Howe watching this? He's got a healthy Reyes. He thought he was going to have him when the season started. He thought he was going to have a healthy Matsui when the season started. They were going to be the table setters, the catalysts. David Wright was in the minor leagues.
Because the reality is, the Mets, and again, this is just, if you just try to take all the subjectivity out of it and look at the Mets season objectively, what kept the Mets even with a glimmer of hope in the first half of the year was outstanding starting pitching. Reyes going to pop up into left. We call for the second out. And in the second half of the year, the starting pitching slipped a notch. Perhaps it was not realistic to expect them to maintain that level. Whatever, the starting pitching slipped a notch in the second half, no question. This team offensively all year has not produced. And that's just the reality of this season for the New York Mets. They did not score at any time in the season, score enough runs. Strike to Kaz Matsui. I'm sure some guys are reminding Zeal about that. You know, you're going out like the way some other greats have gone out. Home run in his last game. And a memory that he will always treasure for Todd Zeal, a 3-run home run. New York Mets baseball brought to you in part by Heineken. It's all about the beer, Heineken. Twice a Met. Todd Zeal, a member of the last Met championship team and coming back for his final season this year. Catching for the second time and going out with a 3-run homer. Keppinger stays in the game at second base, and Heath Bell takes over on the mound in the 7th inning. And Heath Bell will face Brendan Harris to start. Harris has grounded to third twice. Tom Glavine only allowed 3 hits. In his 6 innings, he had 4 walks but 5 strikeouts. And now Glavine hopeful that there'll be no drama and that the bullpen can close out what would be career win 262. Bullpen coach John Franco at work. It's pretty good keeping a lineup card down there so the bullpen knows exactly who they're destined to face. Those dots next to hitters' names generally indicate hitter that made the final out of an inning. So that bullpen knows exactly where the lineup is. Diaz, their On the Montreal side, he made the last out in the 6th inning for the Expos. That's why that 6 is next to his name. John Rauch up in the Expos bullpen. And he belled him. Breaking ball there to get Harris.
You know, it's funny, Ted, because even though the game is the last game of the season for a guy like Heath Bell, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be important because he's been impressive since being called to the major leagues. By the way, Knicks basketball returns this fall on MSG. Catch over 70 live games, starting with preseason matchups later in October and the season opener November 3rd. The Knicks on MSG. This year, it's all ball.
October 24th, we're told today. That'll be the first Knicks preseason telecast on MSG. Our good friend and diehard Met fan, Mike Breen, joining Walt Frazier. Here's the OTB finishing line on Tom Glavine today.
Strong way for Glavine to end the season. 2 of his last 3 starts good ones. Glavine struggled in Atlanta
near the end of his previous start, but should today get that 11th victory of this season.
It is amazing, though. The season ends now for the Mets. We talked about it earlier, how for a few weeks players will try to take it easy and then get back in shape for next spring training. Tony Batista on deck. What a year he's had.
Two strikes to Labandera. One ball, 2 strikes there. Is that one sailed up and in? Mets have a player that can empathize right now with Labandera, although his situation's even a little tougher. Joe Hippis, who's leaning on the railing in front of the dugout. Labandera out on strike, so he's going to need some help here to even get a chance to get his first hit. He's going to need some guys on base to even get up again.
How about Todd Zeile? He said, I'll catch when Tom Glavine pitches. Oh, you're bringing Heath Bell in? This is different. Look at this. He's flinching behind the plate. Now, you're talking about a guy who caught a lot of baseball games since he was 8 years old.
That's a good call.
And he's saying, you know what? This is the last day of the season. I don't want to get killed.
So Tony Batista now pinch hitting for Montreal. But, you know, the reason Zeale's catching today, Jason Phillips banged up foot. Piazza caught last night. And the Mets brought up an emergency catcher, Joe Hippis, from their Double-A team to be with the club here in September to give him an extra catcher. But in Montreal last week, Joe Hippis hurt a muscle in batting practice.
He can throw. I watched him throw one day here at Shea.
And young Joe Hippis has been frustrated because he wants to get in a game. He's had 3 weeks in the big leagues. He's going to the Arizona Fall League, where the Mets are sending some of their better prospects. And the Mets want him to be healthy to play in the Arizona League. And Joe Hippis, you can understand his emotion. He said, I want to get in a game while I'm here.
Sure.
And it's not going to happen.
Well, to get out there for one at bat, you join a fraternity where there's only probably 16,000 guys after all these years of Major League Baseball.
Can't get your name in the book.
That's it.
I mean, your name has to be. There's Joe Hippis, St. Louis native. Actually, I don't think St. Louis native. I should say that. He's now residing in St. Louis on the pop-up by Batista. So Joe will have to wait for his day, and let's see when John Franco's time is going to come. He must be getting close. Well, David Wright today, sacrifice fly in the first inning, and then this impressive swing in the third inning, Fran.
David Wright, 3-0, and he pops the ball over the Geico sign in right field. 14 home runs. If the Mets were in contention and he put up those numbers as you look at our New York Stock Exchange stock on the rise, If he put up those numbers, Ted, and the team was in contention, they'd be raving about him throughout the baseball universe. They're still raving about him.
Well, how about if he had a full year? Let's not get ahead of ourselves here, fans. But it's enough to make you smile, and you think that the two leading contenders is John Rauch comes on to pitch for the Expos. For Rookie of the Year in the National League are Khalil Green, the shortstop of San Diego, and Jason Bay, the outfielder for Pittsburgh. And if David Wright had played a full year, it is certainly reasonable to think that he could have put up offensive numbers that rival Jason Bay and been a defensive player, perhaps not at the same level as Green, but closer to that.
Tell you what, he's a good defensive third baseman. Of course, at shortstop, there's a lot more responsibility defensively, but I'm impressed with David Wright all around. Tell you what, he was telling me the other day that Don Bailey told him, don't slide head first. You're going to have a long career in the big leagues. He smelled the double, and he slid head first. He said, forget about it.
And quickly 2 strikes now. Wright was hit by a pitch in the 5th inning.
He's got 14 home runs, 40 RBIs, and 17 doubles since being called up. So the Mets 2 years in a row had to go into their farm system and call up a prospect before they wanted to do it. And they told the kids when they brought them up, Jose Reyes and Dave Wright, we're just going to be here for a little while. Look at this.
Base hit.
That ball just exploded out the bat, and once that ball hit the ground, it just picked up speed because of the top spin. That's that top hand. Watch it. Bang! Hits the ground. Look at it pick up speed.
And it's, I'll never, obviously, forget. You learn things from Ralph Kiner. There's,
look at this. Look at where that
the ball is. Yeah.
Now watch his hand. The top hand comes over. You know, we talked about this during the course of the season. Years ago, you would hear top hand, meaning, you know, dominant top hand. But if you have a dominant top hand, then you get a problem. You start smothering the ball. You make contact, and then it rolls. And that's a great shot that we've been able to illustrate because of our camera work here at Shea Stadium all season.
Craig Brazell's first at bat today, and Ralph Kiner earlier this year when he saw David Wright hit here talked about David Wright generating carry. That he'll be a guy that can hit home runs because he generates that spin on the ball that causes it to carry.
And what I like about him, Ted, is he said that he takes a couple weeks off, then he starts up again working out. He said nutrition's a very important part of his workout regimen. Getting into a gymnasium every day or into a weight room. One thing you got to be cautious of, I'm sure the Mets have already cautioned David Wright. You don't want to get too muscular where now it becomes a problem.
So Brazell, 2-strike count. Mike Cameron on deck. We're not, just want to make sure you folks all know it's not cocktail hour yet.
Okay.
It just sounds that way.
I had a Diet Pepsi, and when I took a sip, the ice popped into my mouth.
I just wanted folks to understand that.
Okay.
or else we're still okay. 20 minutes from now, don't ask. And Brazell hits a high pop-up. Right center field. And this will be, well, let's see, it's going to be taken by the center fielder, Church. And there's one away. Watch it. Talk about a guy that's uppercuts. Watch this.
Right, Brazell gets a pitch here. Strides in. I'll tell you what, these guys don't shy away from that low ball, dude. That's a nice swing on a ball that looked to me like it was below his knees.
Well, how about that up? I mean, that's a swing.
Yeah.
That's a swing that's designed to hit the ball 8 miles.
You wonder what type of a look the Mets will give Craig Brazell next spring.
There's a ball to Cameron. 0 for 3 today.
So a lot of questions that have to be answered. And we had Omar Minaya on the air. He'll be our first guest on our Hot Stove Report this off season.
Cameron heading to the operating room in 2 weeks. Going to get torn ligament fixed in his hand. Plenty of time to be well for spring training. Medically, the biggest question the Mets face, Omar Minaya talked about a little bit in the upcoming months, is Victor Zambrano. And, already 2 months now almost 2 months have elapsed since Zambrano last pitched, and a Met fan has to fervently hope that he's healing. He doesn't need surgery, having had this much time go by.
Yeah. Well, we showed the possibility of the starting rotation in our open today. Al Leiter, Tom Glavine, Steve Traxel, Victor Zambrano, and Chris Benson. It'll be interesting to see if that comes to pass.
That's drilled to left field, and a nice play. Boy, a tough ball, hooking and sinking, and Sledge plays it well. 2 down.
A ball hit hard by Mike Cameron. Sledge gets it. Look, he fought everything. Sun, the ball was dying when it got out there. Shot of how the outfielders see home plate and the ball that goes into the air.
Now Valent into right field for a hit. Wright had to let that ball pass him before starting. Valent gets his second hit.
So he got 2 blows in his game. He's batting .264 prior to that at bat. 13 home runs. Now we're going to take a look at Victor Diaz with the single in his ball game.
Well, Victor Diaz is, as Zeal comes out in the on-deck circle, Victor Diaz is one of the, right now, the major league payoffs the Mets have to show from their series of trades that Jim Duquette engineered when he first took over the Mets reins, the All-Star break of last year. Traded Alomar, traded Benitez, traded Burnitz in a flurry, and neither the Alomar nor Benitez trades have yet yielded a player that has helped the Mets, but Victor Diaz came in the Burnitz trade in the Dodgers organization.
Well, Victor Diaz has been impressive from what we've seen so far in the major leagues.
Takes low 1-2. The Mets are going to send Royce Ring, the left-handed reliever that they got in the Alomar trade, former first-round draft pick. Royce Ring went backwards this year, ended the year at Double-A. They're going to send him to the Arizona Fall League in the hopes that he can regain velocity. And Mets obviously are going to be looking at left-handed relief help for next year, and that's an area where they really hope Royce Ring can put himself in the competition. Francis Beltran. There's a guy that the Mets hope can be back by spring training. Scott Strickland in the bullpen. Scott missed the entire year rehabbing Tommy John surgery. Diaz chases and is out on strikes. So we go to the 8th in the season finale, 7-1 Mets. As we go to the 8th, John Franco beginning to warm up in the Met bullpen. It has been a month since John has pitched in a game, and Art Howe today had determined, he decided a while ago that in conjunction with John, that John would pitch on this day
You know, Ted, last night after the game, we were having dinner at Parkside, and I met a gentleman there who worked with John Franco's dad, who has passed away, and he said if anybody deserved to have a kid grow up and be a major league player in New York, he said it was John Franco's dad. He raved about his dad. He said he was a terrific guy, hard worker, and he worked with him, I think it was in the sanitation department here in New York. And it's ironic that I met him last night. He was raving about not only John Franco's ability as a pitcher, but John's dad. And that made John feel terrific, I'm sure.
Gerald Williams in left field for the Mets. Heath Bell continues to pitch with Wilkerson the batter. And right back to Bell, who got it. And that one hit sharply, and Heath Bell defended himself, got it out.
Well, we talked about how Rick Peterson has been impressed with this right-hander because he's so aggressive, he throws hard, and obviously can field his position. So Heath Bell has certainly made an impression on Met management.
Jamie Carroll at the plate. Carroll, a couple of walks and a fly out. Season ending today, of course, in all over, but in Philadelphia today. Ending for the Phillies, who fired Larry Bowie yesterday. The Marlins today invited Jack McKeon back. So you'll be happy to hear that, Fran.
Well, I know Jack was interested in managing another year.
The Marlins made it official today. They also announced, though, they're letting go 3 coaches, including their pitching coach, Wayne Rosenthal, who is a New Yorker, St. John's native. He's been let go. Tony Taylor, longtime infielder for the Phillies, let go, and Doug Davis, their bench coach. So 3 Florida coaches will be changed. Carroll rolls one to the right side, and Keppinger makes the play. 2 down. There's widely speculated, although hardly official, but widely speculated, there'll be another managing change tomorrow as Seattle finishes up a disappointing year. Bob Melvin, former big league catcher, and finishing up his 2nd year there, and it's been widely speculated that'll be a change.
One time,
so that'll be, I think that'll be it. The Mets, the Phillies, and Seattle.
At one time in baseball, they used to have a lot of player managers, and one of the reasons was because they could save money. It has become a very, very difficult job. Joe Torre did it here with the Mets. Youngest player manager, I think, in the history of baseball was Lou Boudreau at 23 years old. Bucky Harris was the playing manager.
This is over Diaz's head and to the wall. So Valentino Pascucci will be held to a single.
Wow.
Diaz back, got a great carom.
Good arm.
Fired quickly.
So if you're a scout or if you're a member of the Mets management, you're impressed with this play. They're trying to find him a position. He makes the play off the way. He looks comfortable right there. Now he broke in as a 3rd baseman. They moved him to 2nd base. And he's playing right field now, so stay tuned. He's coming in. Number 45. Grew up in Brooklyn as a Met fan.
Look at that bullpen. Standing ovation from many, especially down the right field line as Franco made his way in from the bullpen. And you know, right there, the contrast on that mound is so stark today, Fran, because Todd Zeile long ago announced his retirement, and today was honored before the game. And John Franco, 5 years elder, the elder of Todd Zeile. No ceremonies, no honors today because John Franco has yet to decide himself that this will be it. Many expect this will be his last game as a Met.
And here are some of his career highlights.
Well, memorable moments, the highlight saves for John Franco. This is save number 300. Boy, look at back time. That's Jeff Kent standing behind him. That was April 29th, 96 against the Expos. That couldn't have been Jeff Kent. Sure looked like Jeff Kent, didn't it? Go back on my record book. It just gets me going. Number 400.
Another long night for Ted. Day game after night game. Where's them out?
Oh, man. Number 400. That came in the 1999 season. Here's John Franco celebrating after the Mets wrapped up the National League pennant in 2000. And then no one will ever forget the emotions of September 17, 2001, the first game back. .424 saves for John Franco. And now facing Termel Sledge with 2 outs in the 8th inning. The first game for John Franco since September 4th. He has had some shoulder problems since then. Treated with cortisone that left him unavailable for a good part of September. And John will take some time certainly to decide his own future, which he says includes a job with the Mets if he so wants. It's going to be a hit for Sledge. Pascucci will move up to second base. And Ryan Church, another left-hand batter, will be at the plate.
How about 33,000 plus here today for this final game for the Montreal Expos franchise. Festivities before the game honoring Todd Zeile, John Franco. An appearance in the final game of the 2004 campaign. Todd Zeile with the home run. If Ted Robinson hit that home run, you know what, Ted? You would have left the field. You would have never batted again. You would have gone out with a home run. No?
Oh, man. If I could have ever done that.
You think about
Church 2-0. By the way, that was Jeff. Just check. That was Jeff Kent. I thought so. Because Kent standing behind Frank. That's how long ago that 300 save was.
Shortly thereafter, Jeff Kent went to Cleveland into San Francisco.
And Church with a pop-up. This should be playable. And it is. Todd Zeile puts it away. That's going to give Franco a little smile. John's going to take the ball. And if indeed this is it for John Franco, he gets it out. And now here's the appreciation from New York. Another meaningful embrace there. Joe McEwing, who has not been able to play the last 6 weeks, very close with John Franco. And Joe McEwing, one of the first there to give John Franco a hug. John Franco says he wants to manage. That's his ultimate goal. And he has said to us that there is a job waiting for him. He's been assured by the Mets if that's what he wants to do, to continue in the bullpen coaching role that he's filled this year. If that is what he desires. It's really seems to be a situation of that moment that can be so difficult for an athlete, Fran, which is coming to grips with the end.
That's right. That's right.
And of course, wanting to play is only half the equation.
And unfortunately, I mean, you're still a young man in sports when you have to get out of the game. I mean, John's lasted an awful long time, especially for a kid who was told, you won't make it. Don't do it.
You can see the emotions.
They told him he couldn't pitch at St. John's. And he showed them they were wrong. Same thing about pro ball, and then the big leagues, and then into his 40s. Second most appearances for a pitcher in the history of baseball, John Franco.
It's a very difficult time for many athletes to make that final leap. Oftentimes I've been told by a lot of experienced people that a pitcher knows it's time when the hitters tell you. That I've had players tell me you go until no one gives you a uniform anymore. That's another measure. All those things I'm sure running through John Franco's mind over the last month to 2 months of this season. For Todd Zeile, this will likely be his final major league at bat.
He had an opportunity to leave the ball game, I'm sure, after the home run. They're going to take him out now, so his final at bat.
That's the way to go.
How about that?
That's a terrific move for Art Howe. So Danny Garcia will bat for Todd Zeile, and that will be the way Todd's career ends. His last at-bat, a home run, his last play in the field, catching a foul pop induced by John Franco.
As a catcher.
And you know what? Look at, you see the dugout there. It looks like Joe Hippis is going to go in the game. And I think that's great. And so Joe Hippis, the rookie, putting on the gear.
So he's an official member of the fraternity when he gets on that field. But once you're on the roster, you're a member of the fraternity.
All right, well, we'll watch Danny Garcia's at bat. And while we do, let's go down to Matt Lockwood.
Ted, thanks very much. Joined here by John Franco, and an emotional day all around. And Johnny, you knew this moment was coming. What was it like warming up, knowing it was going to be your last shot here?
I just didn't know what inning I was going to get in at. So and then the game started getting longer and longer. You just started anticipating. And guys in the bullpen were trying to keep me loose all day. And then, you know, once you get out there, possibly for the last time here at Shea, you start thinking of a lot of things, some sentimental things, and it was fitting that Todd would catch me. So I mean, he's one of my closest friends since he's been here, and it's nice that he's having a great day, finish up the way he did. It's unbelievable that he would catch me, catch the last out, and we'll move on from here.
I know you said it yesterday that in all likelihood you think this will be your last appearance in a Mets uniform, given the direction the team is going. So for a kid who grew up cheering for this team, spent so many years here, captain of the club. I mean, what a dream.
It's everything you could ask for. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. Since I got here in 1990, fans have been great. Organization has been great to me and my family. Teammates have been great. So it's just great that, as a kid growing up, the team that you rooted for, you can come back and play for and be successful and have a good time. And hopefully I'll be with the organization, if not next year, in years to come, and hopefully things will turn around for us.
All right, we're going to end this on a happy note then for you. We showed some highlights of your career with the Mets. What stands out for you when you look back at what you've done here? What moments are going to be recalled?
Well, I'm just happy that when I was closing, just try to be consistent. World Series obviously against the Yankees, playoffs against Arizona, Al pitching that game in Cincinnati, getting us to the playoffs. That's the first time I've been in the playoffs since my career. There's so many things, Matty. I mean, I don't know if you have enough time here, but it's been great. It's been great, and we'll see what happens now.
All right, 424 saves, John. Terrific. Congratulations. John Franco joining us down here on a very nice day at Shea Stadium for a lot of veteran players.
All right, well done, Matt.
But Brendan Harris just let a ball sail. And I mean, he got good carry in this ball. Nice play. And then he reared back and said, watch me throw this baby. And he threw a bullet, but it went into the seats.
That carried up about 6 rows.
So John Franco, an emotional day for John. I mentioned how I met that gentleman last night. He raved about John's dad. And John, of course, wears that T-shirt underneath his uniform in memory of his dad, who worked for the sanitation department here in New York.
Now Keppinger fouls it away. Well, could be a farewell day for 2 distinguished big leaguers. You just heard from John Franco. Now let's go back down to Matty with Todd Zeile.
All right, Ted. No, we do have to thank the New York Mets, of course, for allowing us to come into the dugout in the course of a game, and of course, thanks to John and Todd for allowing us to spend some time with us. The emotion of the day. I mean, I know there were tears in the pregame ceremony, and you know the last few moments for you. What's going through your head?
I'll probably continue to have things go through my head that are a number of different things, but I couldn't have imagined any better day to turn and walk away, and it's not easy. I think everybody wants it to be somewhat storybook, and I think just by virtue of some good luck today and some fun things happening, just sort of solidifies the decision and makes me feel good about where I'm at and where I'm going.
Knowing that this was the last game, was this morning different coming to the ballpark?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's been this whole weekend, this whole week has been, it's filled with all kinds of different emotions. There's things playing in my head that, I haven't experienced really my whole career. So I was thrilled last night when I was told I'd be able to catch today. I think that took a little bit of pressure off. I felt like I'd get back there and kind of hide behind the mask and relive, my first days. And then the way it turned out so far today has been a great thrill.
Your last at-bat winds up in a home run. You pumped your fist as you approached first base. You don't show a lot of emotion. What was that all about? Just like, yeah, that's the way to do it?
It just is I think it was a release of emotion, really. I've been trying to hold it in and trying to stay composed. And the pregame ceremony that they had for me here was amazing, and that video brought back streams of memories. So I just wanted to do something memorable for myself and the people who have supported me all these years. When it happened, it just seemed unreal, and so I think it was just an outburst of emotion at a time that I hadn't been able to really release it.
Well, Todd, congratulations on a superb career. You've carried yourself well on and off the field. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you. It's always been a pleasure of mine, too.
Todd Zeile down here in the dugout, and again, on a very special day, fellas.
Matty, just make sure Todd puts us all on the screening lists, will you, please? That's all. We want to be invited to all the sneak previews and screenings. Okay. Hollywood mogul in the making. Keppinger takes inside. Francis Beltran is the pitcher for Montreal here in the bottom of the 8th. And now there are 2 on with nobody out. And Jose Reyes will be the batter.
It's been quite a day here at Shea Stadium. Festivities before the game honoring Todd Zeile. Then John Franco coming into the ball game in the 8th inning. And of course the Mets on the field. David Wright, a home run. Mets have a 7-1 lead. Jose Reyes, 3 stolen bases. So a little bit of the past and a little bit of the future, the Mets hope.
Just to update on the wild card game in Houston. It is 5-1. Houston still leading in the top of the 6th inning. Houston 5 and Colorado 1. Rockies, though, do have the bases loaded in the top of the 6th. So a little bit of a rally there, and see how many runs they can put on it. That gives them some hope. If Houston wins that game, they're the wild card team. There's strike 3 to Reyes, so Beltran gets him.
So Jose Reyes has, I mentioned, 3 stolen bases, and right there taking a fastball that he thought might have been off the plate, but according to our camera angle from center field, looked like it was a strike.
Wilson Delgado on a pinch hit, and there's
lucky fan got a base.
Yeah, I wonder how that happened. Looks like the real deal, doesn't it?
Yes, it is.
So now Delgado pinch hitting. This is for Franco with 1 out in the 8th. In the American League, Minnesota won the suspended game completion over Cleveland. In the regular game, Cleveland leads 3-2 at the end of 5 innings. Now again, if Cleveland wins that game, then Minnesota comes directly here to New York. They'll play the Yankees starting Tuesday. If Minnesota comes back to win that game, then Anaheim will have to win at Oakland today, or else the Angels would be here to play the Yankees. So that's the only remaining question in the American League. Good finish to the year for a fine young left-hander, Oliver Perez of the Pirates, one of the bright young lefties in the league. He shut out Cincinnati today. With Mesa's finish 2-0. Pittsburgh won the season finale. Bobby Abreu finishing up a terrific year. Hit his 30th home run for the Phillies. They're up 10-4 in the 8th inning over Florida. Delgado takes a ball. Bruce Chen is still going strong. He won today as Baltimore beat Boston 3-2. How about that? Bruce Chen.
Well, he's been with an awful lot of baseball teams. When he came up, he was supposed to be a prize prospect.
A brief stop with the Mets. 2-2 now to Delgado. Only Fortunato's going to pitch the 9th inning for the Mets. He was warming up just a few moments ago. Delgado to left center field. That's slicing away from Dendy Chavez, and he can't get there. Ball falls for a hit. Danny Garcia being waved home, and he will score. Ball caroms away from Diaz onto third base. Goes Keppinger and Delgado into second. Yeah, Frank Robinson saying, how come this ball wasn't caught? And that's a good question.
Well, we talked about the Sun Field, and they get some pretty good outfielders on this Montreal Expo club. And Frank Robinson concerned about that ball dropping in.
I think he was looking at Sledge because that ball was slicing away towards the left fielder Sledge. Andy Chavez chasing it.
See with those sunglasses on, and he's, well, you know, he just couldn't get to it.
Yeah, that ended up being a ball that really was one that the Sledge, the left fielder, in retrospect, he should have caught that ball. That'll be a single for Delgado and a run batted in, then an error on the shortstop on the relay throw. Now David Wright swings and misses. You know, the thing about Franco, John was talking about his memories. Matty asked him what memory he treasures the most, and he didn't. I still think saving Game 2 in the playoffs in 2000 against San Francisco, striking out Barry Bonds to end the game. You think about that one.
Well, Barry's had trouble with John Franco throughout their careers, and admits it. Not many people. Barry Bonds has very little trouble with very few people.
Think about that, striking out Barry Bonds to end a playoff game. What a thrill that is. Fouled away by David Wright, who has a sac fly, a 2-run homer. He's been hit by a pitch and single. He's ended up in the 3rd spot, and he's done it on merit. He's ended the year as the best hitter on the Mets. And his home run and RBI totals in less than half a year are not that far behind the players expected to be the leaders in the Mets in those categories.
Got a chance to pick up a couple of more RBIs.
Probably not here, though, and out to make that catch is Jamie Carroll. Nicely done. So 2 down. And Craig Brazell will bat.
Jamie Carroll making a basket catch over the shoulder. And keep in mind, he's fighting the sun also.
Second at bat for Brazell. Replaced Mike Piazza. In the lineup, Mike went 1 for 2 today with a walk in the final game. Looking over in the press box at the great Jay Horwitz, who's smiling ear to ear, beaming as the Giants beat the Packers 14-7. The little teacup Yorkshire puppy that Chris Benson and Anna Benson gave to Jay Horwitz as a gift a few weeks ago. Jay was debating the name, and he wound up naming it Tiki. And Tiki Barber ran for 182 yards today.
So Jay will be elated.
Look at him, he's over there, he can't stop smiling. He's so happy. So ground out by Brazell. And the Mets definitely saying farewell to Todd Zeile, and most expect John Franco, and at least both have a chance to go out smiling today as we come back for the final inning of the 2004 season. There they are, the veterans, Todd Zeile, John Franco, sandwiching Al Leiter. Todd Zeile's future certain. John Franco uncertain. Al Leiter, as we heard earlier, going to talk with Omar Minaya about his future. And this is a nice moment. Joe Hippis getting into a game in the big leagues. 3 weeks being with the Mets after ending the year at Double-A. And injured in batting practice to the point he couldn't swing a bat, so he was not able to get into a game, and Art Howe giving him an inning here where he's not going to have to hit. Catching Fortunato, trying to close it out. Joe Hippis from Appleton, Wisconsin.
Watched him earlier this month throwing the ball to the bases at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon under watchful eye of the coaching staff, and throws the ball very well. He's got a strong arm.
How happy is Joe Hippis today? He gets into his first big league game the morning after his alma mater, Northwestern, beat Ohio State last night in overtime. How about that? It's been like 40-something years since Northwestern had beaten Ohio State at home.
Bet he couldn't sleep all night.
And now for the Montreal Expos, their final inning in their 36-year history.
You will not hear the name Expos again on Major League Baseball unless you're citing a record. Think about that.
And now the Expos about to enter the lore of the St. Louis Browns, the Washington Senators, the Seattle Pilots,
Philadelphia A's. There is a tear. There is a tear in the eyes of whoever's left of the Expo fan base.
And of course, Montreal is a city with a fabulous baseball heritage of longtime minor league stalwart. The city that Branch Rickey chose for Jackie Robinson to make his professional baseball debut.
Chuck Connors played up there, the actor, and Tommy Lasorda, who became a baseball treasure.
Listen to the chant. The fans who've made their way to New York today to support the Expos in their final game are cheering, "Let's go Expos." Reyes with a low throw that skips by Brazell, and Diaz is aboard.
You can see he couldn't get the proper grip on the ball. He threw that ball and he didn't have a grip on it. Watch this. Picks it up. and bounces the ball to first base.
Tell you what's impressive today, Diaz, last game of the year, backup catcher. That's been busting down the line all day today. He made that play closer than it really should have been. Reyes with the error, Brendan Harris the batter. The Expos played their first ever game on this field April the 8th, 1969. Their first batter in a game, Maury Wills. Who remembers that?
A lot of people forgot that Maury Wills did go to the Expos after playing his highlight years in LA. Frank Robinson, Hall of Fame player, highly respected manager, looking on.
Expos' first starting pitcher was a longtime American leaguer, Jim Mudcat Grant. Oh, why Expos? Yes, it is. And yes, that's ball 4 to Harris, so not quite yet. The Expos have the first 2 men on in the 9th inning, and Labandera will get that chance that he hoped for to get his first big league hit. The fleur-de-lis, flag of Quebec flying. The first home run hit by the Montreal Expos in their history was hit off Tom Seaver on this field by a pitcher, Dan McGinn. Tom never mentions that to us.
Well, we'll ask him about it when we see him.
And the Expos won the first game they ever played.
Rick Peterson going out to the mound now.
Trying to calm down Fortunato. The Montreal's only won 52 games that first year, and they won the first one right here at Shea Stadium, 11-10. It was a year that they would lose 110 games. The Mets would win 100 and win the World Series. But on opening day, the Expos were the winners. Next year they'll play at RFK Stadium, which last hosted a Major League Baseball game on September 30th, 1971. A game in which the Washington Senators hosted the New York Yankees, and the game was ended by forfeit. They had a crowd of about 14,000, and the fans stormed the field in the 9th inning in anger over their team being taken from them, and the game was forfeited to the Yankees. And of course, for all the diehard Expo fans right now, there's very little solace in any of this. They're loud, they're vocal, they're loyal. If only there were more of them.
Yeah. We haven't heard this much noise for the Expos in years, even up in Montreal.
Labandera down on strike, so
won't get that hit.
Won't get that hit.
Looking for that first major league hit. Now he's back in the dugout.
So Meiser Estouris now is going to hit. Meiser Estouris hits for Andy Chavez.
So a sad day for the Expo fans. I'm assuming that this is not on television in Montreal.
There is obviously there's coverage. There's a television crew here from TSN, which is Canada's sports network. And there are other media here, but no, there's no live television going back to Montreal. Unless someone's taking our feed, and I'm not aware. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and I know one thing, and I said to you when we were there 10 days ago, I'm gonna miss it a lot. I love the city.
Oh, yeah.
I love the city, and you know, all about. I think a lot of us are saddened that, as I continue to say, that just wish someone in Montreal, someone in Quebec, had come forward and tried to buy that club and kept it there. But then I was reminded the Montreal Canadiens are owned by a man from Colorado.
Yeah.
Most storied hockey franchise in history.
That was a shot. Now we're going to go back and take a look at the first Expos game. Look at that.
Here it is at Shea, April the 8th, 1969. Gene Mauch, Gil Hodges. $44,000 here that day. That's Al Jackson on the mound as Rusty Staub goes deep for Montreal in that game. And the Mets got a late rally. They got 4 in the 9th inning. Duffy Dyer hit a 3-run home in that bottom of the 9th, but the Expos hung on for an 11-10 victory. Don Shaw, who would pitch for the Mets, got the win that day. Cal Kuntz the loss. Now Sturis after the strikeout. Now Chavez the batter. Swinging away at 3-0, Andy Chavez.
Tim Raines looking on. He wants to be a major league coach next year. He joined the Expos after his Florida State team completed their season. He managed that team. So the Rock wants to be a coach, and will he be a coach in Washington?
3-2 now to Andy Chavez, and the Met fans out of a terrific final day crowd. 33,569 standing as Fortunato goes for the finish, and on a ground ball to second base, the New York Mets win their final game of the season, and we officially say au revoir à les Expos.
So Frank Robinson signaling over to Art Howe. How about that?
Well, it's a sight we've seen every stop the Mets have made the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And again, you use the word fraternity. That's a fraternity also. The big league managers.
And Art Howe just managed his last game for the New York Mets. I'm sure he was looking Matsui, Reyes, a healthy Piazza, to David Wright.
And Fran, let's say this. We didn't talk about Art Howe during this game. The way Art Howe handled himself the last 2 weeks has, if there was, and I don't think there was much, but if there was any doubt about Art Howe's standing in baseball, it was thoroughly erased by how he handled himself the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely, and this is it for Art Howe as he congratulates his team for the last time. John Franco, big afternoon. He came in and pitched the ball game in the 8th. And of course, Todd Zeile, his final at bat, a home run he caught today. And let's not forget the future. Jose Reyes, 3 stolen bases. David Wright, his 14th home run of the season. So we saw some of the past, and Mets are hoping some of the future.
And we saw history, so it's an interesting collision here as many people recording the Expos' departure from the field as the Mets. We'll come back with plenty more at Shea.
Just a terrific day all around here at Shea Stadium. Tom Glavine picks up his 11th victory as the Mets beat Montreal by a score of 8-1. John Franco makes an appearance. Todd Zeile goes out on a good note, and Art Howe joins us here on the field after this victory and at the end of the season. And Art, we know it's been a difficult couple of weeks for you, all that's gone on. What was it like for you this morning as you came to the ballpark?
Well, a little emotional. You know, it's your last time coming in, and I'll tell you, we couldn't ask for a better way to finish it. Everybody on the team that could play got in the game. Todd Zeile, I mean, what a storybook ending. You know, a 3-run homer, his last at bat in his career. What a tremendous day he had. And having Johnny come in and get the big out for us in the 8th. It's just, like I said, I couldn't ask for a better way to go out.
Through it all, you've been a stand-up guy through this. You said, I wanted to finish out my contract. They asked me to finish out this year, I should say. How odd, though, has it been to come in knowing that it was going to come to an end?
Well, that's the strange part of today was, you know that no matter what happens or whatever, it's over. But hopefully I don't have to go through something like this again. But I enjoyed my stay here in New York. I wish the organization all the best. I'll tell you, they got some real fine young players coming along, as you saw today. So there's a bright future here.
Some regrets that maybe you didn't get a chance to see those guys another time.
Well, I'll see them on TV. Who knows?
Well, Art, I know it's been a difficult time. Thanks very much for your time here and throughout the 2 years, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Art Howe, a gentleman throughout all, joining us here one last time on the field as the Mets win over the Montreal Expos. We'll have more from Shea on FSN New York right after this.
So the New York Mets end up the season with an 8-1 victory. It also ends the history of the Montreal Expos franchise after 36 years. For Tom Glavine, his 11th victory of this season, 262nd career. As we check out our Toyota game summary.
Seal with a 3-run home run. Tom Glavine, career win 262. David Wright lighting it up again, 2 for 3, a home run, 3 RBIs. Hit a home run on a 3-0 pitch, and that could be something to look for next year as the future looks bright. As Art Howe said, John Franco pitch an inning, might be his final inning in the major leagues.
That's right. Second most appearances in baseball history for John Franco, and it may have been the final one. If it was a successful day as well as it was for Todd Zeile and the Mets, an 8-1 victory. We've got plenty more coming up, so stay with us. We're going to hear from several members of the Mets after this final day of the year on our New York Stock Exchange post-game show. So we invite you to stay with us. That's right, it was a lot of history today, posing for pictures. The umpires are Frank Robinson, and as we suspected, a fair number of Montreal fans who made the trek here for their final game. But David Wright was the early story with a home run, and then the veterans, Todd Zeile, a farewell 3-run homer. Saluted by a bullpen led by John Franco, who himself would make what may be his final appearance in the big leagues. Franco out of the bullpen to a nice standing ovation. It started with his bullpen and then continued down the right field line at Shea Stadium. Now for Fran Healy and Matt Loughlin, Ted Robinson, stay tuned. Our post-game show next at Shea.